I'm Sean Fennessey.
I'm Amanda Dobbins.
And this is The Big Picture, a conversation show about life after the Oscars. A very exciting show today. Later in this episode, Bong Joon-ho returns to the show to talk about life after the extraordinary success of his Oscar run.
It's a little embarrassing. It's like, do we really need to be here?
You guys will chat.
I feel that almost never, but for Bong, yes.
Yeah. Bong is here. Bong's got a new film. Mickey 17 comes out this weekend. I had a nice long conversation with him. His first conversation on this show since 2019 when he was running shit with Parasite. Yeah. We'll talk about what happens when a neon movie runs shit in Hollywood in this episode. Thankfully, Bong was as witty and smart as ever about his movie, which I hope people will see this weekend. Stick around for the conversation. But Joanna Robinson is here. Joanna has been a steady hand through this award season.
It's so nice to see you.
It's so nice to see you.
I meant to ask you, can we have dinner next week? I didn't realize that you were here.
We are recording a podcast right now.
You know, and she's here for a while. It's so nice to see her in person.
I extended a lunch invite last week, actually, but we didn't make any plans.
No, we didn't.
I'm booking dinner.
Okay. Let's do it.
It's great to have you back, Joanna. The Academy Awards did happen, and you did watch them.
I did.
You thought about maybe not watching them. What were you going to watch instead?
No, I was definitely going to watch them.
Okay.
I was never not going to watch them.
It was either
Oscars.
Go to a party.
It was either go to the neon party and watch it or watch it at home.
Oh, yeah.
And for content, I should have gone to the neon party, but instead I just watched it at home.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Did you have others with you? Was it a solo viewing? Set the scene.
Yeah. Oh, super glamorous. No, it was just me, which is deeply unusual. I don't know. It was a really unusual Oscar viewing experience for me this year. And I actually really enjoyed it because I felt like the pressure was lower than it usually is for watching the Oscars for me personally. Because I wasn't sure I was coming on The Big Pick. And now that I know I'm here, I'm full of takes. But it was great because then I was just watching it for me and not feeling like I need to form opinions in the moment.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's been about 10 years since I didn't know that pressure.
Exactly.
Nevertheless, we'll probably get into whether or not we did a good job on Sunday night.
You did a great job.
That's very nice of you to say, but you're also paid by the Ringer, so
that's another thing I did though is I did watch Sean and Amanda. You guys know this because I was texting you guys about it. So yeah,
we did have fun. I wonder if all of those people at the neon party brought down the ratings just a little bit this year. They were down a little bit, not too bad actually.
Segue King.
Only 18.07 million people watching the show, down 7%. Hi everyone, it's me, Sean. You may be wondering why I'm interrupting myself in this lovely conversation we're having about Oscar ratings. Well, the answer is very simple. When we recorded this episode, we did not have all of the data, and now we do have all of the data thanks to the Nielsen Corporation. They have informed us that actually the ratings for the Academy Awards were even higher than we thought. So instead of that 18.07 million number that I just shared, it's actually 19.69 million viewers who watched this after tabulating PC and mobile viewing. Thank you to all of you who are watching on your iPhones, you degenerates. And this is great news because this means that the Academy Award ratings are actually up this year over the 19.5 million from last year's Barbenheimer Oscars, which is remarkable in some ways, but also when you consider the fact that this is the first year that Hulu was streaming the Oscars, it's not that great. It's only a 169,000 viewer bump, but it's still better than being down. So as always, I am torn about how I feel about ratings that do not matter for your life. Nevertheless, I wanted to correct the record here for this episode. Let's go back to the otherwise lovely conversation we were just having on the show. Thank you. Which I think, relatively speaking, is pretty good.
But isn't the caveat that the Academy wants you to know that more younger people tuned in this year?
Yes. Definitely.
People not in our demo.
Definitely.
In
because
Bobby's
they're
demo.
Huge Timothée Chalamet fans?
Because Sandworm?
Sandworm,
hijinks?
yeah. Okay.
Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
yeah.
Good
I
call.
think that's what it was. I've had a lot of conversations about Ariana Grande since Sunday night from people who I did not realize were in any way interested in the Oscars or in Ariana Grande. And they were just like, well, she was snubbed. Just like at Whole Foods yesterday. I was like, oh, okay. Just like people I, met on the streets. So I guess some young people cared and were rooting for her.
Definitely Grande and Selena Gomez as well. I mean, Selena Gomez is like one of the most followed people on Instagram.
Unfortunately,
she has an
Selena Gomez was not
loyal
nominated
following.
for an Oscar. So
Yeah, but she was there.
She was not. Yeah.
But she
Didn't
sure
she
was
go on
there.
stage?
No, she was
Didn't
there.
she present something?
There were some. I mean, Timothée Chalamet, Selena Gomez, and Ariana Grande is about as good as the Oscars can ask for for central young stars at their ceremony, right?
Well, they could have asked for Zendaya,
Exactly.
but unfortunately,
Yeah, I guess
they
so.
just completely blanked that. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more starless the ceremony and the telecast felt. And obviously, those three people are very famous. They didn't win. And so Timothy was on screen a lot. And I guess Ariana performed to open the show, but otherwise they didn't use the very small star power that they had. And that front row was all the nominees, and there was no one else in the audience. There were lots of people, and I like all of them. And poor Denis, your beloved Denis, had that middle seat.
Disrespected.
I
think that's
was.
why Zendaya wasn't there, honestly. No, she wasn't there because they forgot challengers existed. But and CR texted us this great tweet about the fact that Nolan's filming The Odyssey right now, and that's where a lot of famous people are. But yeah, if you don't nominate Nicole Kidman, if you don't nominate Angelina Jolie, if you don't nominate these people, they're not going to come. We've talked before on this podcast about that idea of like the mayor of the Oscars who's sitting in the front row. It used to be Jack Nicholson. We've had Meryl Streep there, who's there sort of anchoring the star power. And you've got Timmy on the end that they definitely cut to more than anyone else. Coleman Domingo in his red suit, front and center.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that just a little bit because Coleman Domingo within the industry and amongst cinephiles, beloved.
Exactly.
Everybody identifies as like a great guy, an amazing performer.
Sing, like very deserving,
He's wonderful.
like great at campaigning, looks amazing in clothes, and has looked amazing at every event.
However, he's not that famous.
No, exactly.
He's just not that famous.
That's why I said Coleman Domingo ? With no disrespect, because as you guys know, he was one of my favorite performances of the year. But that's not a Meryl or a Jack figure, and that's sort of emblematic of the whole ceremony, right?
Yes,
That we are honoring cinema, we're not honoring pop culture as much.
And that has been the major shift. That has been the thing, I think, most significantly as I think about the last 5 years, is that this is a much more high-minded arts ceremony and much less of a celebrity factory, which is how we understood it. It's also possible that our memories are deceiving us, that in 1994, not everyone was in the room. It just felt like they were. It felt like a much more concentrated experience. I don't know. I would have to rewatch a telecast.
In the 90s, the nominees included Tom Hanks multiple times and Mel Gibson, which wasn't as problematic then as it is now, and Julia Roberts. And so, and it's true that in many ways, like the Oscars of the 90s made those celebrities, but it was a symbiotic relationship, and like the studio movies featuring quote unquote movie stars that still existed, like met with the Oscars. The Venn diagram was overlapping. Now we have, our beloved, like extremely talented art house favorites. And then we have all the IP movies with like people you've heard of. The divide is bigger than ever. But also I think the ceremony, as we noted, there were only 2 trailers shown during the entire broadcast. The ceremony did not really promote any upcoming movies, maybe because there aren't that many.
Snow White.
But like, I guess Rachel Zegler was sort of there, though they like took care not to say the word Snow White, as far as I
They
could tell.
played Someday My Prince Will Come when they came out.
Oh, did they? I didn't pick up on that.
Even in the sense of
But they stood her next to Gal Gadot, and she looked like a little tiny baby Rachel Zegler. That was so mean.
They also identified Rachel
that?
Sennett as Rachel Zegler
On
on
the
the red
pre-show,
carpet.
yeah.
For like a long time.
It's tough.
So, but
Snow White going super hard in my house right now.
Oh,
So
yeah?
we're fired up.
Okay, we're ready.
all this to say, like the promo piece of it, and even if you would get celebrities to the ceremony to promote the movie that they have coming out in April, May, June, this summer, those movies don't exist, or the studios or whoever don't feel that their audiences are at the Oscars. So it's just it's a real vacuum.
I think that there, I was going to make a joke about why was the cast of Warfare not present on stage in their gear, but more pointedly, like, where was the cast of Fantastic Four? Why did they not present? That would have been,
and that's a Disney, and that's a Disney property. I mean, I think that like when I texted, I'm sure one of many group chats that you guys were in that night, but when I texted like, I really like these presenters, and then I actually took it back when they brought the Snow White duo out. But I really liked the presenters because we weren't getting the upcoming stars of X. We were getting much more, I thought, interesting people out there. And so for me overall, with apologies to Bobby, who told me before we started that he thought the Oscars were quite boring this year. Am I allowed to say that, Bobby?
You can say that.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought. Well, in particular, I thought the speeches were pretty boring and
This-
more rambly than usual.
I thought the speeches weren't great, but I really liked the thought they put into the presenters, to the bits. I did not think the supporting actress bit worked. That was the one that I did not think that works. But when
Agreed,
they brought
I
out,
didn't like that either.
yeah, but when they brought out the Fab Five for like production design and costume, I thought that was really, really fun and thoughtful. I thought the comedy bits that they did with like Ben Stiller and Amy Poehler were really thoughtful. So I think,
Ben Stiller, that was funny.
We forgot to
Yeah.
mention that on
yeah.
Sunday,
Yeah.
but that was also very funny.
Yeah. So I think that I thought they were being thoughtful in terms of where they were sort of mixing things up a little bit. We're going to be goofy here. We're going to be expansive here. So the cadence of the whole show really worked for me personally.
I mean, everything that you just said is true and positive. And then there were like 45 minutes of dance and song performances.
I have thoughts about that.
Yeah.
That's a different thing. Yes.
Just to top off the ratings thing, I do think that there were a couple of significant factors. You mentioned the length of the show, 3 hours and 47 minutes. That sometimes can depress viewing. It's not the longest show, though. There are several times that this show has gone over 4 hours, so it wasn't as bad. I think it was about roughly what we expected. It's down from 19.5 million last year in part because of Barbenheimer, 18.7 the year before that, which also had a couple of big titles. But we're way up from where we were in the COVID times. And I think everything is kind of settling. I think, the Globes were kind of settled year over year.
You've made peace.
Yeah. I mean, award shows are obviously significantly smaller than they were when we were kids, but they're still much bigger than almost anything else that's on TV that isn't football. So the show, this is going to keep coming up, though, because the show is going to be renegotiating in like 6 months, 12 months with ABC and or streaming service. And I bring that up because, of course, the show did stream. We didn't watch it on a streaming service. Did you?
I did watch it on
And did you
Hulu.
experience
What did
a
you do?
blackout?
I got the glitch, but I thought I had fucked up somehow. That's always my default assumption. So then I just went back to Hulu home base and started clicking around. I got it back up within, I would say, less than a minute.
Okay.
I think other people were less perhaps panicked than I was. I just started clicking around on anything I could find and click around, and finally it came back up.
We did not even know that it happened when we were watching
Yeah.
the show, which we watched on ABC. And I think it was immediately after we finished recording, I had many people in my mentions being like, you need to talk about how Hulu fucked me, dude, which, is kind of par for the course for my mentions. But I think it's interesting that the first time, and the first time is always tough for these services, but the first time on a big stage when streaming is obviously the future of how we're going to watch this stuff, to have an error. Also coming off of, I thought SAG went pretty darn well on Netflix. It's a pretty seamless experience.
But that's also like the first time that Netflix has gotten a live event totally
It's true.
incorrect.
They had their Love is Blind after show fuck up. They had Mike Tyson fight problems.
So the Hulu glitch, as far as we can tell, is because it went over.
I think it's because they didn't allot for the fact that at 11 o'clock Eastern, they were going to have some resetting.
Doesn't that make you absolutely want to scream?
It's like idiotic.
Like
Of
think
all
about
the things that you could
think
predict.
about how
Yeah.
many people worked on this and were involved in it, and
Yeah.
it's just you're not thinking like a consumer of the product. You're programming, and it's just it happens all the time across
one thing
industries.
you can rely on for the Oscars is that they will go over.
Yes. It's just two departments not talking to each other.
Yeah, of course.
It's the content people not speaking to the engineers, which, that does happen
Yeah.
from time to time. Joanna, I asked you to compile some observations.
Yeah.
So you've had a chance to not only watch the show, but ingest a lot of takes.
Yeah.
So you've heard some stuff.
I have heard some
Did you
takes.
bring some raw new material to the table?
I thought it was new, and then I heard some other people say it, but I wrote these before I heard other people say it, so
Okay.
they're new. They were
That's
new to
great.
me.
Okay, what's number one?
I will say, I think a decent spread of awards is far preferable to one movie dominating. Right? Would you agree?
I'm glad you brought this up. This is the third year in a row where we had a heavy concentration on one movie that became the powerhouse of the race. Anora was not as heavily tabbed as Everything Everywhere All at Once and Oppenheimer, but I think I kind of hinted at this at the beginning of when we started talking on Sunday about how 5 awards for one movie and all being big awards is a lot. And that kind of flattens the show, I think, a little bit, where it feels like this steamroll effect.
I kind of disagree in that almost every, except for A Complete Unknown, Nickel Boys, every single Best Picture nominee won something.
One thing.
Or 2 things.
There were 4 movies that had multiple awards, and I think that's it. Now, maybe that's roughly the average, but for a movie like Anora to do, it never happens.
It might have just been the way that they spread out the categories throughout the night or something like that. It didn't feel like, oh, Anora again. Oh, Anora again.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It felt like we're honoring the brutalist now. Now is the time when we talk about what Wicked did well. You
Also
know?
because they only gave out like 6 awards in the first hour and a half or
Mhm.
something. No,
No, I know.
I think I'm serious.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there was a little like one for you, one for you, one for you. And Joanna's right. The Anora steamroll only really came at the end, unless you're nerds like us and or listeners of this podcast. And as soon as
Yes.
editing happened
Correct.
and original screenplay, you knew what was going to come.
Correct.
I think that's what I was reflecting
Yeah,
on,
but-
where that happened, and I was like,
but-
okay, they just kind of popped the bubble a little bit, and there was nothing to do about. You couldn't
Yeah.
wait until the end to give out best editing. That would have been very
Right.
strange, but it did feel a slightly deflating while watching it.
But that feeds into my second point, which is that's true. I definitely knew Anora was going to win Best Picture early
Yeah.
on. I still think Best Actress was up in the air until the last minute.
I think once editing and screenplay happened, he did turn to me and he
He
said,
said
I'm
Mikey's
really
doing-
nervous if I'm
Yeah.
Demi Moore.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm really nervous if I'm Demi Moore's agents
Yeah.
and publicists.
I wasn't shocked.
You guys got a vacation.
But there was going into it before we knew that Anora was going to win midway through the telecast that what's going to win Best Picture, what's going to win Best Director, what's going to win Best Actor, what's going to win Best Actress. And I cannot remember an Oscar ceremony that I last went into not knowing for sure almost all of those categories.
that was what was so exciting to me about the last week in the run up to the show.
yeah.
Watching the show, I was
Mhm.
like, okay. So, the thing I'd said where I was like, they're either going 4 for 4 or 5 for 5, or they're
Yeah.
going 1 for 5.
Yeah.
And it became clear early on. There's nothing you can really do about it. It's just, it did happen more or less with Oppenheimer, and it did happen the year before that too. So is this a trend? Is this just because people are falling in love with a movie, or these just happen to be 3 very good campaigns that were executed, you could argue, flawlessly? I mean, those are 3 campaigns that just kind of cruised very, very
Yeah.
well through their season. No controversies, no big problems. Everyone kind of agrees, like, I like this movie, if not love it.
Mhm.
And I do think the power of like over love is something that is dominating at the Academy Awards these days.
Especially in years like this, where I don't think that there were a lot of people being like, this is my movie. This is it. I am campaigning for it myself. I do wonder how much of the total tells us about just like how voters are watching things and what they're watching. Like
Mhm.
I have a pet theory based on no evidence that Anora is just kind of the one that a lot of people are like, oh, okay, like I'll check that one out, I guess, but I'm not going to sit down and watch The Brutalist because it's 4 hours long. I
And
saw
I'm not
Conclave.
gonna watch The Substance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not going to
yeah.
watch, I'm not going to do all of this work, but seems like people like Anora, and maybe I'll watch it at home and like it too. And then they were like, okay, homework done. Check.
It's
check,
funny
check.
because that feels like a slight rebranding of Anora after the awards. Because I feel like leading up to it, everyone said that was what Conclave was. That Conclave was the movie that everyone liked and everyone felt palatable, and everyone
It's
was
true.
definitely going to watch it. And so that was probably going to win on a ranked ballot because that would rise to the top. And then Nora, like I was talking to someone who was sort of berating me for ever thinking that Demi Moore would win because he was like the older Academy voters. We've talked about how
Yeah.
they've diversified, but they were never going to go for The Substance. And I was like, Anora's not a Disney movie.
It's true.
Anora is an edgy movie, And so it's just in the larger context of like the punishingly long runtime of The Brutalist
Mhm.
or the extremes of The Substance, Anora starts to feel more normal.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's in the context of
Yeah.
the race.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
what you're describing, which is like, this is maybe the second most approachable
Like,
movie out of
what
the 10.
am I actually, okay, my ballot's due in 4 days.
Right.
I haven't been paying any
I
attention.
haven't watched anything.
What am I actually going to
Yeah.
sit down and watch?
I did watch Wicked, but yeah.
It's not just The Substance. I think that's true for Dune Part 2. It was pointed out that in all 4 of the anonymous ballots that Entertainment Weekly ran, that none of the people who were voting had watched Dune Part 2, which is one of the biggest movies of the year. But I think a common refrain that I heard for the last 9 months, and which you were the first person on the show to cite, which is like, is this a real Best Picture contender? I think it should be. And a lot of people agreed because they love that movie. But it doesn't really have a lot in common with Academy history and Academy love. And it didn't do that well. It
Though
got 2 tech awards.
You were the one who pointed out on Twitter about the Two Towers stats that like, does it have a chance at the Return of the King 3P?
So the watch spoiled Dune Messiah.
I know.
vaguely.
I knew that thing already.
Okay.
It's weird. It's deeply
I
weird.
know that it's weird. I read the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
Sean is claiming that he won't, but he keeps insisting that we're going to have a Return of the King situation.
No, I am not
and I'm just
insisting
like,
that, and
do
I
you
never
understand
did. And
how many people are going to be worms? Like, it is literally just going to be the Conan bit, but without a harp. You know?
I really think that's hilarious. I
Thank
really
you.
think
Thank
that
you so much.
You're welcome. I really think that
This is the kind of instant feedback we need.
I think that Denis is going to make some dramatic changes.
Okay. But still.
He has to.
I don't think for sure that it's going to be rewarded. I do think that part of the pattern of this year was people thinking that was what was going to happen because they don't know what's in that book. Okay. That's your first observation about the spread. What's your second?
Well, I already kind of said my second, which was like which categories were question marks.
Oh, the
going
nail
in.
biters.
Yeah, the nail biters. Yeah.
I think that was good. Did we just trick ourselves though? I mean, you kind of brought that up. You were like, we kind of knew it was Anora, and for some reason we backed off, but we knew.
My friend, a couple friends of mine were at the neon party, and during the screening, there was like the watch party and then the after party. And during the watch party, a bunch of neon, it's just neon folks rooting for their own film, of course. And they start chanting like the SAGs don't matter.
Yeah.
Before the end of it. And so, I mean, the SAG Awards, I mean, Demi had a narrative building up. It was really Tim's win at the SAG Awards that really, because we were like, oh, it's Brody in a walk. It's Brody. And then we're like, oh, is it Tim? Is it just because we want to see him make another speech? Is it because we want to watch him wear another incredible suit?
I was like, I should have changed Mikey. I should have went Mikey the whole time. I don't know why I did that. That was stupid. You were very forceful and convincing throughout that process.
I'm still shocked. And I think I really just I am concerned for every lower level employee at CAA, at Demi's management company, whatever. Like the photo of her in the bathrobe with the what's the dog's name? I never learned the dog's name, and 2 plates of fries. I was like I'm okay. That was that was tough. That was things are really bad, and I wonder how people are behaving themselves.
She's going to be okay.
But she's fine.
Gonna be okay.
She's going to be totally fine.
I hope. I mean, I don't know how she was if she was. I mean, I think about this every time this happens. When it happens to Glenn Close, when it happens to whoever, that everyone told you were going to win or you might win, and I just hope that they have people around them saying, but also you might not. But also, let's look at what Mikey has also done. But also, let's be realistic about this. And I don't know if Demi has a team, is the kind of star who has a team around her that is realistic with her, or a kind of team around her that's just sort of like, you got this, babe. It's you. It's your year.
I think one of the reasons why Mikey won is that the more that people saw her during the campaign, the more they realized just how different she is from Annie. That she actually did have a kind of transformation performance-wise that... she's clearly a much more retiring, soft-spoken person. And so jealousy is a disease, honey, and all that shit. Like that's acting. So, and she's really great at it, and they wanted to award that.
Guys, can you clip that for social?
I would be happy to be part of that meme. If you could make me closer inside of that meme, I would be very happy.
Can we get a take with 30% more Brighton Beach in it, you think, for social to make it really go viral?
Take 2.
As you know, I have stuffed all of that, intonation down as I get further and further from Long Island. The other thing too is, our friend Michael Asker has been saying to me for the last couple of months, he's like, you called this, man. You've been saying Anora for 7 months. You called this. And I'm like, I can't claim calling anything because I looked at when Cannes happened. The only reason I was like, this is a big deal and it's going to be a big deal movie is because the field was so weak this year.
Yeah.
It's not that a Palme d'Or winner means it's going to be a Best Picture winner. It's just that it was a weird, weak year.
When you were out and we were ranking, I feel like the conversations we were having was, we'll put Anora at the top because we're waiting to figure out what actually is going to go at the top.
Exactly.
But that was it was a placeholder.
That's
for
why I'm
a
not
long time.
saying I told you.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't know if Conclave did rise, I'd be like, okay, I guess that happened. White smoke. We didn't get white smoke. Black smoke.
I think you're being too hard on yourself. You have a job to do, and your job is to talk about this for 6 months a year.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to make content just like everybody else.
No, you did. Yeah,
and I have felt in the last 24 hours that I've heard from a lot of people who don't do this 6 months a year, or even 3 months in my case. Thank you so much again. And feel suddenly that they like get to share their opinions. And
Oh yeah, a lot of that.
and respectfully,
A lot of people watching.
you start your own podcast.
Yeah.
Okay,
you're
honey?
surprised Ariana Grande
Yeah?
lost? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard from a lot of people who are basically like cramming the Oscar movies in the last like week. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Well, bless them for even watching them.
That's
A
true.
lot of people are just like, what's this? I don't
Yeah,
like it. I'm like,
that's
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that, as you know.
Yeah. So whatever.
Last observation.
This one actually really bothered me.
Okay.
So I actually thought Conan was a great host.
Mhm.
Like I thought he really walked a great line between not saying, isn't it ridiculous we're here, but also getting off some rather sharp-edged zingers. I thought that was really great. He starts the ceremony in his monologue, which I thought overall was really good, saying, okay, fires are bad, politics are bad, everything is tough, but it's okay that we're here to celebrate this moment because we're celebrating the working class artists of film, not just the famous people,
Mhm.
but we're here to celebrate the artisans, blah, blah, blah. And then to watch artisan after artisan get played off the stage while they're trying to make their speech. I was like, this has always been a frustrating thing about the Oscars. I really think, I know we're moving as I think you and I are both really excited about it, and hopefully Amanda is with us, like towards this like niche or we love cinema. Do you want that, or do you want it to go back
I
to
do.
like,
I just don't want to hear from everyone else
Yeah.
afterwards of being like, well, I don't care about this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's-
I think that's actually where we're headed is
Do
they'll
the-
stop
like-
caring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either do the work or,
Yeah.
take my betting advice and move on. That's actually Katie and Becky were very respectful. And they enjoyed, I don't know if I won them any money, which I feel bad about. But they enjoyed Paul Tazewell's acceptance speech. So,
Yes.
and that
It
was
was
a good
great.
one. I mean,
It was
there were a few artisans who broke through.
Absolutely, but I just think overall,
And there were some who just rested way too much time. I'm not naming any names, but it happened in the shorts category, and that's a tough scene.
I just think that like when the Oscars historically have, and by the Oscars I mean the telecasts have tried to put these categories during the commercial break or whatever the case they can do to get further and further away from actually honoring or like collapse the sound categories. And like year after year, they're just sort of getting further and further away from this. So it's one thing to do that. And it's another thing to make this speech about why we're here is to honor those people and then to not give them time to
I
talk.
just think that that's something, what Conan said from the stage is something that insanely rich and famous people tell themselves to feel
100%.
better about having the most public award ceremony in America, if not the world. You know what I mean? Like the Nobel is a much more important prize, but 20 million people don't watch the Nobel Prize ceremony. Like this is the biggest thing like this that we do.
Well, someone was telling me, they're like, oh, you know what they're going to do? They're going to get Bob Dylan to come out and do the meet with Timmy Chalamet. I was like, Bob Dylan did not leave his house.
He's not doing that shit.
He's not coming
That's
to
why
the
he's Bob
Oscars.
Dylan.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great observations. One other thing that I neglected to mention, though many people did point it out to me, is no real David Lynch meaningful acknowledgement.
I will say that he got, if it had not been for Gene Hackman, he would have had the final biggest in memoriam moment. They like ended with him and it was a lengthy moment for him. So it would have wrapped with David Lynch, this huge filmmaker that we lost.
So you're blaming Hackman.
And Morgan Freeman,
Okay.
to be honest with you.
Morgan Freeman is an example of an older star who was there. We didn't point out the fact that, he does represent that Nicholson class. And, I said it to you during the show. I was like, he's 87. This is not.
And they were pairing, like bringing Goldie Hawn out with Andrew Garfield. Like they paired a lot of like older stars with younger stars. I thought an Andrew Garfield bit almost always works for me.
And this one didn't.
This one did not.
Well, I think
It was a little like, I'd like to fuck you, Goldie Hawn.
Yes.
Which is,
and Goldie Hawn
Takes all
wasn't
kinds.
quite on the same page.
No.
So, but that's also Goldie Hawn was like, I don't have my reading glasses, so she looked great. It was
She did look
okay. I appreciate what he does generally to bring the energy. He also is like, to me, was the only non-nominated celebrity there, like doing the work, putting on a show. We need more of that.
He was
That's true.
trying. He was trying.
Yeah.
You pointed out during the show that Isabella Rossellini was wearing the blue velvet dress,
Yeah.
which was very nice,
Yeah.
a great tribute. She did not win, so most people just did not see that or even think about it. The Lynch thing is just like he was nominated for Best Director twice. Like he's not just some guy. He's a significant part of Academy
You wanted
history.
Margaret Qualley to dance to Blue Velvet.
What song? How do we get her in the Roadhouse in Twin Peaks: The Return? Dancing to his son's
bring out Julie
band.
Cruz. Yeah,
Julie. Oh, that would have been. Well, she passed as well, right? Yeah. So,
never mind.
okay.
Don't bring out Julie Cruz.
Okay, very quickly before we get into the mailbag questions, we have a lot of questions. 2026 Oscar predictions. I'm not asking you to do the whole slate, though I will admit to you guys here that I did do the whole slate last night while I was bored.
Okay.
Did you?
Did you leave that experience joyful, nervous, tired? Like where were you?
You know what it is? I'm committed to the game. Like I am about this life, and I've always been about it. So if I decide with 48 minutes on a Monday night at 10:12 p.m. to dig into my 2026 Oscar
11
predictions,
was your heart out?
I just kind of lose all brain function at that time, so I had to kind of squeeze it in there.
Okay.
But I felt good about it. But I asked you guys to just do one Best Picture prediction, one Best Actor prediction, and one Best Actress prediction for the films that are coming out this year. How did you feel about this exercise?
It seems a little thin on the ground right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my concern, and that's why I asked you how you were feeling, not some meta commentary about your job
His
as
life's
as a
purpose.
full-time Oscar prognosticator.
I listed 26 potential Best Picture nominees.
Cool. Just read them.
Yeah, why don't you read them? And we'll
go
tell you
for
what
it.
we
I'm
think of
sure
them.
I forgot stuff.
And we'll just say yes or no.
Yeah.
After the Hunt, the forthcoming Luca Guadagnino, Julia Roberts
No.
film.
I don't think it'll happen.
Anne Lee, Mona Fastfold's new movie,
No.
premiering later this year. Avatar: Fire and Ash.
No. Nominated, but not winning.
Maybe.
I'm not saying winner. I'm saying nominee.
Oh, yeah,
I'm saying
yeah.
Best Picture
Yes.
nominees.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Bride, Maggie Gyllenhaal's Bride of Frankenstein adaptation.
I really want
No.
this to be a yes. This is going to get like screenplay.
I mean, not that again, it's not deserving. I think that it'll get crowded out because
No.
isn't
Okay.
Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein also coming out this
It is
year?
also coming
But
out.
he's
We'll
in
get to
Netflix,
that.
and that's not real.
These are in
Yeah.
alphabetical
It's
order for the
Guillermo-
record.
Shape of Water was about a fish. and
Pinocchio
fucking-
was not
listen,
real.
I know, but he was a fascist. I don't know if you caught that.
He was not a fascist.
Ciao,
He
Papa.
existed in a fascist period in
Nino
history.
Papa.
Begonia, the new Yorgos Lanthimos film starring Emma Stone.
No.
Lynn Ramsey's Die My Love, starring Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson.
No, but can't wait.
Christopher Borgle's The Drama, starring Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. This is the director of Dream
Yes.
Scenario.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay, Joanna says yes. Amanda says no. Eddington, Ari Aster's contemporary set Western.
No.
Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, Jim Jarmusch's new drama starring Kate Blanchett, which may premiere at Cannes.
No,
this
but
year.
No.
that's nice.
Okay.
That you thought that
I love Jim
Yeah, of
Jarmusch
course.
so
Well, yeah,
And we
but
love
the
Kate
Academy
Blanchett.
doesn't
Like,
love
I'm
Jim
just
Jarmusch.
giving-
I'm
I'm
excited
just
about
listing
I'm excited about
potentialities.
everything that you just said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein.
Yes.
Nominated.
Okay. Chloe Zhao's Hamnet, which is a literary
Yes.
adaptation.
Yes. Yes.
Highest to Lowest, Spike Lee's remake of
Oh.
Akira Kurosawa's High and Low, starring Denzel Washington.
I'd like to say yes.
Let's say yes.
The History of Sound, Oliver Hermanus's new film starring Josh O'Connor and Paul Mescal about two men in the 1910s.
I'm so excited for this one.
Right.
I'm so excited for this
Yes.
one. I'm going to manifest it. Yes.
You could really see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay Kelly, Noah Baumbach's new film starring George Clooney and Adam
Okay.
Sandler.
So I have heard that I've heard rave things about this movie. Have
The
you
Sandler
also heard this?
campaign. I've been told to buckle up for the
Yeah.
part of the
So
reason that
that
Sandler was
started
there
last night?
was that
Okay.
yes.
Then yes, let's do it.
And I heard it like a while ago.
Now, the
Is
problem-
it going to be Cannes?
It's Netflix.
I think it'll be in
Oh,
the
that's
fall,
right.
and
Fall.
it's Netflix.
So
So,
Venice?
no.
We have to go to Venice. Do you want to come to Venice?
Sure.
Okay. Seriously, I'll
Yeah.
write you I'll fill
Okay.
out your application for
Thanks.
you. I need people
I
on the
hate
ground with me.
paperwork.
Okay.
So yeah.
It's honestly pretty easy.
Okay, great.
Okay,
And
you guys
mostly
can
in
go to
Italian.
Venice.
You don't want to go to Venice?
Not really.
We would have so much fun. Really? Will
would.
you come to
Yeah, I
Venice?
really will.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. That's nice for you guys. Marty Supreme. This is Josh Safdie's Timothy Chalamet period piece about a ping pong player.
No.
In Best Picture, we're doing Best Picture right now.
Best Picture.
No.
Kelly Reichardt's The Mastermind, which is an art heist thriller set against the Vietnam War.
No, but I can't wait.
Yeah.
Sounds very exciting.
Sounds so good.
Materialists, which is a new movie
Yes.
from
Yes.
Celine
Yes.
Song,
Yes.
which just
Yes.
got a
Yes.
release
Yes.
date.
Yes.
Were they sending out cakes? A24, if you're listening. So there was
Are you
a
not on the
cake.
cake list?
Well, I'm not always, but I don't. Did they send a cake for this?
I don't know.
Because the cake was in the picture of announcing the date.
I am not casting aspersions on this movie, but I don't think it's going to be an Oscar movie.
Have you seen it?
No, it's got a June release date, and it's got
Joanna,
Dakota Johnson.
would
in it.
you like to use this opportunity to apologize to Chris Evans?
I would.
Yeah,
Formally.
go ahead. Formally, you apologize for the things that you said,
I
and you
do.
believe that this movie
I
with
do.
Celine's song
Show it
can
to me
be-
first, and then we can talk about whether
Okay.
or not I need to be issuing apologies to anybody.
I believe in Celine's song.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think Chris Evans has made some poor choices and can make some good
Are you
ones.
saying-
Dakota Johnson forever, and I'd like some cake.
I feel so strongly Dakota Johnson forever.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congrats, guys.
Hey,
When did Past
Madam,
Lives come out?
What was better?
2023.
No, but what month? Wasn't it like a weird
Yeah,
mid-year?
It was like
was
May, June. Yeah. Yes, that's I know
This
they're
is
trying to redo
This
it.
is a rom-com. It's not a
Don't
it's not a
say
romance.
it like that.
Anora-
in my presence.
Anora is
Okay.
being called a rom-com.
Look, if I'm wrong about this, I'm wrong. I'm just giving you a gut take.
One more Dakota Johnson thing. Which was better, Captain America, Red Hulk, or Madam Web?
Oh, unfortunately, it was Captain America.
Oh no!
Yeah, I'm
Boo.
sorry. I'm sorry.
We got
Of
we got a lot of movies to go here,
Of
guys.
the two low bars. Okay, go ahead.
Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic,
Oh God! Is this still because they got to redo the whole third act?
reportedly.
I
Before Matt Bellamy's report about this movie
Yeah.
needing to reshoot the third act, I would have said this is a locked and loaded Best Picture contender. That's not. And that's
I
not
have
a
no idea how
qualitative
this is going to land.
assessment.
I have no idea how this is going to
Yeah.
land.
Mother Mary, David Lowery's pop star portrayal starring Anne
and
Hathaway.
halfway.
No.
Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel
Yeah.
a Park Chan-wook moment
Yeah.
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
Something that occurred to me. One Battle After Another. Paul Thomas Anderson's
Yes.
new
Leo.
film.
Yeah.
The Phoenician Scheme. Wes Anderson's new movie.
No,
Coming
but
very
it's an
soon.
outrage.
2 months.
I
that
know,
movie's coming out.
can.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Screenplay.
Screenplay. Okay.
Well, but not.
Yeah.
We're just doing
yeah,
Best
yeah,
Picture
yeah,
right now. Yeah.
Chinese Master Begon's Resurrection. Okay. You guys don't have an answer on that one. Derek Cianfrance returns to feature filmmaking with a new film called Roofman. It's about a roofman.
Who's in Roofman?
I forget who the roofman. Who's the titular
Who's the
roofman?
titular Roofman?
Who's the roofer in Roofman? Oh, it's Channing
Is this
Tatum.
taking place in the Chris Pine pool guy universe?
No,
There's a
Pool
Roofman.
Man. No.
There's a pool guy.
Roofman.
There's Spider-Man, there's Batman, there's Pool Man,
And there's Roofman.
Yeah, all my
Yeah.
favorite
So
superheroes.
I'm sorry, you said it's Channing Tatum
Channing Tatum.
is doing that
Lakeith-
instead of Gambit?
and yes, and Lakeith Stanfield and Ben Mendelsohn and Kirsten Dunst.
Oh.
Do love her.
Now, Derek Cianfrance
Mm.
for
Yeah.
the boys. You
Yeah,
know,
we know.
we do love Derek Cianfrance.
For the boys?
Yes, very much. Yeah, Place Beyond the Pines is
Yeah.
Yeah,
is
Blue Valentine's
true
for the
boy
girls,
text.
though.
It is,
Sure.
it
Yeah,
is,
yeah. I think
It's
it's
for
a
all
no.
of
I
us.
think it's
Yeah.
a no, but
Yeah.
Okay, it's a no. I lost my place on my list. Where is
You
it?
can't claim Derek Cianfrance.
I just did. The Smashing Machine. This is a true life story of a boxer starring The Rock,
No.
directed by Benny Safdie.
No.
Okay, no. Sorry Baby, which was a smash out of Sundance that A24 acquired.
yes, they always get one.
That's their one.
Well, they always get one Sundance. You know,
Yeah.
the Sundance.
This-
well, I guess Real Pain didn't get it.
This would be the real pain of the year, not to
and it
conflate
didn't
the
happen.
meaning of those two movies. Train Dreams, another Sundance movie.
Yes.
Oh, that's the
That's the
logger?
one. That's the one.
That's The Logger.
That's the
Clint
one.
Bentley and Greg Quedar's movie.
Yeah.
And Wicked for Good.
Yes.
Okay, Bobby, we're keeping track of how many yeses they gave.
More than
Yes,
10.
I'll note that in post.
Okay, thank you. Did I miss anything? Did you think of? Did you have one that I didn't mention?
No.
I feel like Wicked for Good is the easiest prediction here,
Mm-hmm.
and we may be in for a wicked year.
I
We may
mean,
be in for one.
as mentioned about Dune Messiah, Wicked for Good is going to be a darker tale, you know?
Does anybody fuck a sandworm in Wicked for Good? Can you confirm or deny that?
I won't speak
Okay.
for Elphaba and her choices.
Best actor predictions
Chalamet back.
for Marty
Leo-
Supreme
Leo in.
for One Battle After Another.
Mhm.
Wow. That's also like the substance right
Yeah,
there.
it is.
I had those were my first two on my list.
Yeah.
A wild card I'll throw out there is this is just for a nominee, Matthew McConaughey for a movie called The Lost Bus, which is Paul Greengrass's new movie for Apple, which is about the Paradise Fires and a bus driver who got children out of the fire.
That's like a real Viggo Mortensen Captain Fantastic sort of situation.
I think it's not quite that whimsical.
No.
Yeah.
Not whimsy,
yeah.
but just sort of like that level of I could see it happening.
Yeah. Best actress,
Emma Stoneback for the Yorgos movie.
Begonia.
Yeah.
Annie Hathaway.
Had her on the list as well. My number one pick is Rose Byrne for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which was at Sundance. I didn't see it, but went into tea leaves reading mode.
Everyone.
And there's a big halo around her performance.
On the
in
one
that
hand,
movie.
yes, but on the other hand, it feels like a thing that you make a big deal of at Sundance that does not
Could
track.
be. Could be. This happened to Kieran Culkin, though, and we saw what happened on Sunday. Okay, thanks for playing that exercise with me. Let's do the mailbag, right? Any closing thoughts? Oh, very quickly, Jesse Armstrong has a movie coming apparently on HBO in like 2 months, 6 weeks. The creator of Succession, one of the best TV writers of the last 10 years.
In the wake of Sean Baker's We Need to Go to the Theaters, how do you feel about a Jesse Armstrong movie on HBO?
I mean, it's not what I want.
It's also where I've consumed most of his work for the last 3 to however many years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Movies are back, but on TV. That's just how it's been.
I don't love that.
It's not great, but I'm so excited to have a new movie. It's kind of a meh spring.
Yeah, it's tough.
So for this show's purposes, it's like, all right, Mickey 17, Sinners, some other stuff.
Sinners.
You know, like we got to get to May here.
Yeah.
We really got to get to May. So if this movie drops in April, it's very exciting for the big picture.
We accept.
Michael B. Jordan, Best Actor, Sinners.
It's not impossible.
No, it's not probable,
It
but
seems
it's not impossible.
likely given that it's a
Golden
vampire movie.
Golden Globe.
Golden Globes. Big Golden Globes vibes. All right, Robert, hit us with some mailbag questions. How did the inbox look?
They look good. I read over 300 emails for this mailbag.
Hell yeah.
Sheesh.
And I tried to drop in or respond to as many as possible.
That's
so
lovely,
I
Bobby.
apologize
That's so
if yours
nice.
is not in here. And also, we have a 40-minute conversation with one of the masters of international cinema coming at the end of this, so we can't just answer 200 questions.
That's true.
I apologize. First question, jumping back to Sunday evening. What snacks and beverages did Amanda and Sean enjoy, and Joanna, or not enjoy during the telecast this year?
Also, I heard the food at the neon party was a
No
bus.
bueno?
No.
Was
Okay.
a bus.
Oh.
Yeah.
No
that's
Wolfgang
disappointing.
Puck on offer
No,
there. Okay,
yeah.
that's too bad. We had sushi.
We did.
We had You Know Me hand roll, which is a
Yum.
downtown fixture that I'm a huge fan of. We now frequently order You Know Me hand roll
Yes.
from for award show viewing purposes here on the big screen at
Yeah.
Spotify, which is fun. I don't know why you didn't join us. That would have been nice,
should've.
actually.
I should've
didn't
come.
even think about that. Then again, Amanda and I watching these shows with one or two folks from our video team has become a tradition, and it's very weird, but it's sweet. It's
I
like
saw the video of Amanda like prone at one point.
I
so-
do. There are two like very, very oversized armchair love seat
Yeah.
situations. But at some point, you just gotta lay back and relax.
Yeah,
which
just
is-
let it
which is
happen
what I
to
was
you.
doing. Yeah.
It was Mick Jagger you found particularly offensive?
No, it was that one of my out on a limb predictions was that we were going to finally take care of this Diane Warren thing, you know?
No.
And it was just then we wouldn't have to talk about it anymore.
It would've been
Which, like,
so
I should have run the
nice.
campaign. Let's get this over with.
Yes.
yeah, you should
You
call
know?
her. You guys should
Well,
hang out.
Next
Okay.
year.
We didn't snack too much. I've shifted my mentality on this. I used to over order on Oscar day. A lot of snacks, big meal,
Yeah.
double cheeseburger. Nowadays, I want to be relatively light stomached
I
for the
agree.
pod.
I also agree with that. What did you have when you got home?
I inhaled a box of Annie's snack mix, which
Okay.
is technically my daughter's, but not anymore.
Not anymore.
And I feel good about that choice. I also had 3 tall glasses of water.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I'm
then I
glad
had to
you
wake
stayed
up at 4 o'clock
hydrated.
in the morning to pee because I'm 42 years
Yeah,
old.
that-
And
it's really
you just
tough.
can't drink water after 7 p.m. after 40. Just something for all
Mm-hmm.
the listeners and all you fine young
Cannibal.
young
Yeah.
millennials and Gen Z.
Also,
Enjoy that water while you can, guys, because it's not going to work out as you get older.
Yeah.
You
I
can
had
relate.
half a gummy And then I thought that would help me sleep, like a weed gummy,
Yeah.
obviously.
Oh,
and then
it didn't work.
then I woke up at like 4:00 and was like, hello.
We were talking about whether or not
I
you
know,
would...
I tried it. It did, because after an Oscars day or something, you can be a little high energy, a little
Yes.
like jittery.
I only know based on the text I saw that
Okay.
came from you that were in all caps with so many exclamation marks.
You're trying to keep the energy
Yeah.
up, keep
Yeah.
it going,
Yeah.
but then you got to like come down. So I thought that the gummy might help. And I guess it did. I properly dosed. I followed the instructions on the label. But then it didn't really help my sleep. So that's out.
It's hard out here. Did you enjoy anything nice?
On theme of low-key Oscars, I just did not. Usually I do like theme food. This
Oh.
was just like a
Okay.
cash, yeah.
All right. Well, next year we'll try to figure it out, assuming you're here covering The White Lotus season 4 in Los Angeles. Okay. What's our next question?
Next question comes from Sam. Sam wants to know, what is the next film from Sean Baker? How much bigger does he go? Many people asked us a similar question. Does Sean Baker cash in a blank check now? Does he continue to make films in the same register? What will happen next for his career?
He has said specifically that he wants to go smaller, that he is committed to independent cinema and he does not want to do what your illustrious guest on this podcast has done, which is go bigger.
Yeah. Well, to me, Bong Joon-ho going bigger after Parasite didn't feel like some kind of rejection. I mean, he'd already made Okja. He'd already made The Host. Spectacle is a part of his proposition.
He's going bigger
right?
for something like Mickey 17, which is
Yes.
not like I want to go make a Marvel movie.
Exactly.
Like it's very, very different.
If Sean
Right.
Baker signed on for Fantastic Four 2, that would be disappointing.
Yeah,
Grim.
it would.
Grim.
It would be
That would be
the
unfortunate.
rejection of everything we understand. Yeah.
Yes.
But without, I'm really, really excited for Mickey 17. This has nothing to do with that. But like the fact that Sean Baker's like, I can do it. I could do more with less. He was also talking about how he was like going immediately to Florida to interview the kids from the Florida Project who are now teenagers, like for special features for the Florida Project DVD. And I was just like, that's the movie I really wish Willem Dafoe had won Best Supporting Actor for. But I just love that he's like, I can go down from here.
There's one other exciting consequence, I think, which is just that people are going to go back and look at his older movies. Prince of Broadway is coming out in the Criterion Collection at the same week that Anora is coming in the Criterion Collection. So they're coming out together. Criterion very smart to pair those things together because people will buy them together. And that's a very little seen movie. That's a really interesting movie that has a lot of little strands that when you look through his work, you can see the resonance. So I think the thing is it doesn't really matter how like big or not big his movie is. He does a very specific kind of story. And if he moved significantly beyond that, it would be shocking. He's been talking about this. The other thing is like everybody thought Sean Baker was like 38 years old. He's 56 years old. He's been making movies for 30 years.
He does look great.
He looks great.
I mean, the thing is like, could he cash in? Like the one reason I guess to do it would be like a mountain of money.
Yeah.
And he seems very cool and to not care about that at all, which is just another, otherwise, why would you really do it? He writes, directs, edits, produced, like he's just running his own show. He makes like amazing movies, has like built, like a career and a oeuvre like over time and can do it all himself without other people bugging him.
I think also all of his movies are pointedly transgressive in their themes and in what they portray on screen. And he wants control over that. He doesn't want to be told he can't do it. So of course he's not signing up to make a movie at Warner Brothers. That wouldn't make sense.
Right. But there's ideas of, can I leverage this to sign a deal with Warner's where I get complete creative control over this?
Yes.
And I like this idea that like, we'll see what he does, where he does it, et cetera. But listening to Tom Quinn's interview on The Town, like, and talking about what like Neon wants to do and all of that, I just think that that's a really good interview and a really good support of a filmmaker that they, had a lot of great success with this year, but also really courted for a long time. So
yeah, let's actually do the Neon A24 question then because of that, because I think that's a really good segue, Bob.
Yeah, we got this question from Nick. Has Neon officially taken the independent film company championship belt away from A24?
So there's a lot of ways to read this, and I think it's an interesting question. The championship belt is fake. That doesn't mean anything.
And
that's a
and also
false
like
way of
even if
framing
it's
it.
real, it's like no, they trade it back and forth at the Oscars and in
Right.
the box office and in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think at least among producers that I know, Neon is hotter. like Neon is just a little bit hotter right now
Yeah.
because A24 is in the middle of this transition where they are trying to and succeeding at being a bigger company that generates more success. Now they are going to run into the same thing that every movie studio runs into, which is to try to make bigger movies. Your movies have to get riskier, more expensive, and maybe dumber.
Yeah.
And so
more
that
broadly appealing,
yes.
certainly. Yeah.
And that sheen of cool that they have worked so hard to accumulate over the years is slightly under threat. If you look though at say, let's just say for the box office last year, what do you think? This is a game. How much money worldwide do you think Anora made at the box office?
I feel like I should know this. Isn't it something like 50 million? No. Is that
Any guesses?
I was going to say like 24.
It's $41.25 million. Now, how about this? How much did The Brutalist make at the box office?
That one I don't know, but less, right?
Guess?
Oh. I mean, I'll guess 24 again, just to have a fun
41.46.
Okay.
Wow.
They are neck and neck at the box office. And I would say for both of those movies, that's a great success if you remove the context of these are the leading contenders for Best Picture. So both of these companies are doing very well. If you go through 2024, though, A24 had many of its highest grossing movies ever in 2024. Civil War, Heretic, Baby Girl, We Live in Time, and Maxine all cleared $20 million worldwide. I think just one movie for Neon did that, and it was Longlegs, which was a crazy success story,
Right.
but was more anomalous than it was the trend. So just in that context, they're doing different things. You know, I think they both have 2 Best Picture winners now, right? With Moonlight and Everything Everywhere All at Once and Parasite. And now this film,
Yeah.
Neon has made this bid to basically buy every single Palme d'Or winner. I'm sure they'll try to do that again this year. They both have great taste. One is like a lifestyle brand. The other is just like, we just do movies. That's our whole thing. A lot of the marketing for the monkey was literally poking fun at the candle selling for Heretic. I don't know if you guys saw that poster. They're in a little quiet Cold War here that is fun.
Can I, so to go back to that interview that Tom Quinn did on The Town, which again, I really recommend, like he was talking about the campaign effort. And he was talking, he and Matt were specifically talking about the mailers. And as someone who receives, as do you guys, like all of the award season mailers, every year I look forward to 2 things, which is the Neon box set, because they send it out every year in a physical media, beautiful box set, not just like a random DVD that they've shoved in a random envelope that you get a million of and it's deeply annoying. And the A24 box, the A24 box, which is full of, yes, like Heretic candles and like weird swag.
I have
but like,
never received the A24 box in my life. I have no idea why.
okay,
I'm
well,
just saying that on the record.
those are just the 2. And to your point, we do movies, we do swag. That's what A24 does.
Yeah.
But the swag, unlike any of the other studios that sends out something completely random, disconnected from the movie, or just something really weird and useless, they're like, these are really fun, clever, funny things that are tied to, you know, one year it comes in like a Minari food crate box and like, you know, whatever it is. It's just like, it's like, we know you love our movies. Here's a bunch of stuff tied to our movies. But those are
Merged out,
but those are 2 like really smart, concentrated efforts. Who blitzes everyone with award suites and stuff? It's Netflix. They send you were getting a Netflix package every day. It becomes deeply annoying. There are these huge heavy art books. It's all this sort of stuff, and it's so emblematic of like how concentrated and targeted and clever the Neon and the A24 approaches are. So.
Yeah, and that particular aspect of things, they still are just doing very well, and they seem to be reaching people in a way that maybe all those Netflix mailers are not reaching people, and some of the Netflix films. I don't know. I think the other thing to consider is that I pointed this out on social media. This is the first time all 6 major winners and Best Animated Feature and Best Documentary and International Feature were independently financed. None of those movies were financed by a major studio in Hollywood. That is antithetical to the origins of the Academy Awards. They were started by the studios. And so we're seeing a massive shift. And so now what you're seeing is not just A24 and Neon, but I think particularly Janus Sideshow and Mubi are like real awards contenders every year, in addition to Sony Pictures Classics and Focus and all the old hands who've always been really good at this. You know, Janice just got Flo a Best Animated Feature Oscar. That's a crazy thing that happened. I mean, I know we don't talk about that sort of stuff that much on the show, but there's no precedent for that sort of thing happening in that category.
I don't know what that campaign looked like at all, though. That to me all felt like word of mouth, which I guess is like
I think Gintz worked so hard. He did so many interviews. He was so present.
But then some of that was also just it. That was a very online phenomenon. Also, you know, like it was, and the cat and the capybara, and I think also like the lack of dialogue means that you don't have to do subtitle. You know, it kind of
very
does travel.
International kind of story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, good point.
So and accessible, and they made it like very available. You could see it on, I believe, Max before the Oscar. Like
they did.
People were into it.
So yeah, and I think Mubi picked up the substance from Universal, and if you just look at what Mubi is going to do this year, we mentioned the History of Sound already.
So excited. Bring
Them Down is coming out next week. It's or maybe it came out last week and is coming to streaming soon. It's Christopher Abbott and Barry Keoghan in a movie. Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, the Jarmusch movie, Magic Farm, Amalia Ullman's next movie, and then The Mastermind is also a movie. So these companies, like, they don't have as much money and they don't have as much clout as Warner Brothers or Universal, but in some cases they have a higher likelihood of winning Oscars in the future. So things are just very different. And in that respect, it's fun. A24 and Yen are going to be fine. They're doing great. What's next?
Okay, we got many questions about Adrien Brody's speech. So this one represents that cohort of people. Tim asks, now that it's confirmed that Adrien Brody gave the longest acceptance speech in history, which we did not know on Sunday evening when we recorded, do Sean and Amanda have any second thoughts on it? Most of the online community thought it was scatterbrained and incohesive, Tim says.
Do you have any second thoughts?
No, Tim, I don't. This was one where...
That was not scatterbrained or incohesive.
So funny. And
is incohesive a word?
Incoherent, which for the record, we did. On
Just
the
read what it
podcast,
says.
we were like, this was really long. And he was like,
I believe the words I used were elongated and self-regarding.
Yes.
So, you know,
and
I wasn't
observed
totally
that it took
praising.
him a very long time. Everyone was watching. I think how you respond to it is like how you respond to it, and that's fine. I've been thinking a lot about the broadcast decision to cut to Georgina Chapman as many times as they did, which is maybe like that we could Monday morning quarterback on a little bit. But no, the main thing that I've been thinking about is I'm just like, oh, so people really didn't see The Brutalist, because it's like you were expecting some energy. Like if
The Brutalist were an acceptance speech?
Like if you had been in the Brutalist mindset, if you've been following what Brady Corbet has up to, which is another thing, I'm just like, you guys better be glad the director went the way it did. But I was like, oh, okay, so you all are just learning about all of this. And that's fine. You know, I definitely think that it works better in the film The Brutalist than it did on stage, but you know, whatever. It's the Oscars.
Do you think one should physically toss one's gum before watching The Brutalist as well?
That was tough, but I do also I like that he was like, I shouldn't have gum in my mouth.
Sure.
You know?
Do you guys talk about this on? Do people know that the kids he talked about in his acceptance speech are Harvey Weinstein's kids?
Yes, that's why I was like,
Popsy.
I mean, listen, the kids are like, and the kids are blameless.
No, it's just an interesting Hollywood tale.
You can cut to the supportive partner once or twice, but the fourth time that someone is coaching him through an Oscar speech, you begin to remember when she's been at the Oscars before.
Correct.
I would just think twice.
Correct.
Here's what I will say about the speech. I'll repeat some of what I said, but one, I interviewed Adrien Brody during the campaign for The Brutalist. That's what it's like talking to Adrien Brody. If you listen to our interview, he's incredibly deliberate.
Yeah.
He's deeply serious. If you want to say he's too self-serious and a windbag, if you want to use those words, feel free. Like, that is how he is and how he always is, in my experience. What I was trying to point out what I was praising in the speech was that he did something that I think good speeches do, which is that they show you what's most important to the person who won. what was most important to him was his journey, his arc as an actor, as a famous person, as a person who fell, whatever that means, in the last 20 years, and as a person who, in his mind, came back. All the stuff about like love, not hate, that's the same Jeremiads we hear at every Academy Awards. That to me, that was like, it was long, but it was the same shit that you hear from actors all the time.
Very, very long time.
Totally. And people didn't like, obviously, that he said, I've been here before, you know, like, and I get all that. I thought that was kind of amusing.
I liked it.
The same way I thought the Chalamet, like, I want to be one of the greats thing was amusing. I was like, you don't see this too often. It's nice to see something different. But specifically him talking about like him pumping himself up in this comeback story, which is in his mind. I mean, Adrien Brody is like presumably very wealthy and successful and having a good life.
Yeah, but he's like, Wes Anderson bit player no more, Succession guest star no more. I'm leading man Adrien Brody again. And I think what is true about these kinds of Oscars, these kinds of like where you been Oscars, is that it doesn't necessarily, like, ask Renee Zellweger or ask Brendan Fraser, does this necessarily translate to you're back, baby?
No, it definitely does not.
So that all seemed a little like, I'm not sure the point you're making is a true point.
He kind of used it as like I am committing to myself in front of all of you.
It's ultimately not up to him, unfortunately.
No,
I mean, that's the thing is like the pianist and the brutalist are once in a lifetime roles, and he just happened to get two. And a lot of people have.
I thought you said something.
I also heard that.
I was like, okay, well, I was like, I saw a different cut.
I think that.
No, I didn't actually. Yeah. I saw the. I saw. Yeah, I was like, I was thinking about.
Yeah, you did.
I'm gonna move right on past that one.
Why is everyone being such a prude this Oscar season?
Come on, House of Art.
What do you mean? Anora just won Best Picture.
I know, and everyone's just been like, "Can you believe that something is like scandalous and like so many like naked ladies?" I was like, "It's a strip club. Like, sure they have sex. Like, they had a lot of sex in Poor Things. Why is everyone just being so uptight? It's fine. They're just bodies."
Okay. Thank you very much to Dr. Dobbins for sharing. As an impromptu science corner for health class.
To go back to my earlier, like, let's not play the poor artisans off the stage. When there are like people who didn't even get to make their speech and Adrien Brody takes that amount of time, that's when I have a real issue,
In the whole, I agree with you, but this was at the end of the show and it was Best Actor. Like, should Best Actor not talk for a longer period of time than the Best Visual Effects team? This is the Academy Awards.
The next question, Bob. Read the next question.
This is the exact next question. Comes from Keely. On the last pod, you both mentioned varying opinions about the allotted time of acceptance speeches. Is everyone deserving of the same time slot, or should more time be given to the big categories?
Here's my issue when we slot VFX artists in the commercials or play them off the stage. Is like, this is the one time they get to be inside of it, out in front of an audience this big in their lives. Adrien Brody has had this opportunity and gotten to give many speeches at many award show at this point. And this is the one time that those people get to do it.
But,
and
are we fighting for the democracy of entertainment? Like, this is not, it's a show business. Famous people get more. They get more money. They get more time. Like, this is just how it is. What are we fighting against here? This is like, I don't know. This feels like a very like politically brained thing that finds its way into discourse about meaningless shit.
It has nothing to do with politics. It's everything to do with like, I just get excited for those people who have like never been on a stage that big in front of that many people.
There was a moment on Sunday night. I don't remember which category it was, but there were 3 or 4 winners. Maybe it was sound. I'm not sure. And so the third winner just didn't get to speak.
Yeah.
And that's sucks.
What I'm talking about.
That just sucks. And honestly, that can be fixed in production. And that is like a Telecast issue, not like in post, but
there's 3 people on stage. Wait for the third person to talk.
You make the decision. Like that should just be the rule. There are people there live covering it. Like, that was a fuck up. My thing is less about like, should we allot a specific amount of time and because then, first of all, that doesn't allow for spontaneity in the moment. And it does get into like weird culture wars that we just don't need to get into. Everyone needs to be prepared. This is on the winners, is my thing. Like, if you're nominated, do your homework, get ready, be entertaining. This is a TV show.
I agree.
Like, it's your moment. We're going to give you the moment. Use the moment. And I think if everyone used the moment, then they might not be played off.
I would say that is nice in theory, but you have clearly never won an Academy Award. Because what everyone says is when it happens, you're like, fuck, I can't believe this happened.
Sean
and then you
Fennessey.
start freaking out.
Let me tell you right now, I would be awesome.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
I would be prepared, but I would also bring my natural warmth and charisma.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Many
I
people
would
are
be
saying
surprised.
natural warmth emanates off of you.
And I would say rude things to you live from stage, and it would be incredible.
Oh my, you'd kill. I just think that if our whole idea of which direction the Oscars is moving in, which is towards celebrating edgy, interesting cinema, then your whole like celebrities get more, man, attitude
I'm
like
not
doesn't
advocating
seem like it
for it.
aligns
I'm
with
saying
it.
be realistic. Like, be realistic. You
Why?
think they're going to make more time
You
for
can't
that?
make me be realistic.
I mean, you could say you wish it was this way, but it's never going to be this way. It's the Oscars.
But we can fight against it. Like when they put those categories
fight who?
when we put the categories, when they tried to put the categories in the commercials, which they did, they were roundly shamed into undoing that.
Sure,
So you can
yeah.
shame them
And
into
I'm not advocating that.
behaving correctly.
I think that's debatable. I think whether or not like artisans
in
will
2025,
get
it's definitely debatable. Yeah.
Artisans getting equal time to powerful people is not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
I have a quick fix for this. With the exception of the very nice Dutch couple who won, I believe it was live action
Yes,
short.
I am not a robot.
Yes. Oh yeah, and congratulations to the New Yorker.
Yeah.
And then you guys finally won something. But I thought
After steamrolling us at the National Magazine Awards for 20 consecutive years, now they have an Oscar. Those fucking bastards.
and that was like a nice moment. And she was like, I know that we're Dutch and we don't say this, but I love
Yeah.
you. Good job.
That was cute.
The other short speeches were, I think, borderline disastrous and often are. And also always go on so long.
Yeah.
So we gotta move that to another awards show. And then we can take the time that we've saved and give it to the craftspeople and let everyone who's nominated speak.
Do you think Academy members are listening right now? Not Academy members, Academy governors,
Mhm.
leadership is listening right now and thinking, these guys know what they're doing.
Mhm.
And in 2026, we're coming through.
I would personally cut the entirety of the James Bond tribute, and that solves everything.
Well, we're aligned on that one.
Yeah.
That we could have had a lot more time for a lot of other things if we had done that. Okay, Bob, what's next?
Okay, important question up next. Sam wants to know who has the Best Picture title belt right now. This is, of course, alluding to, I think, a famous Bill Simmons concept of who's carrying the belt at any moment of who is the best current NBA player, and it overlaps year to year. So what movie do you think right now is holding the belt of the best picture?
I think it's still Parasite.
That's a really good one.
The thing is like, is Parasite
Oh,
better
boy.
than like Silence of the Lambs? That's because in the belt concept, it's
It's
a
just like
history.
there's a certain posture that you take on when you're about to correct me on the
posture
rules
of a great man.
of some made up Bill thing. And I just
I've been working for Bill for like 13 years.
I love Bill. Bill has made a whole world up that I love living
A
in
Libra.
every day.
Wait, was it
He's
the last 10
best.
years or was it the history of the Academy Awards?
Well, the concept is a historical concept. So at some point,
So
you
it's
have
like
to
the
say that
best-
Silence of the Lambs probably lost it to something else, right? To No Country for Old Men or something like that. This emailer
I would not
give
put
their
No Country for Old Men over Silence of the Lambs personally. So
Okay.
as an interesting example, would be close, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't put Parasite over it either. Much as I love both of those
I'm going to
movies.
give it to Lawrence of Arabia.
I mean, that's the thing is you
Yeah.
could go all
Yeah.
the way back.
Casablanca.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
go all the
It
way
happened
back.
one night.
Yeah.
All the cavalcade heads out there,
Yeah.
the Cimarron heads,
Yeah.
the greatest show on earth
I
heads.
think if you talk to any filmmaker, like anytime I've interviewed a filmmaker, they almost always have a Lawrence of Arabia poster up in their house somewhere.
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean,
Do you think they'll show it again at the 70mm Fest
I
this
do.
year?
I
And
do.
can we go?
yes,
Okay.
I
thank
think
you.
they will, and I would love to go.
I really wanted to, but I was like 9.5 months
You
pregnant.
were very pregnant. When
I
that
was like,
happened.
I
Yeah.
can't commit to being anywhere for 4 hours at
Yeah.
a time at this point.
My goal is to attend 6 screenings during that festival.
Like, because you know what the lineup is and you've identified the 6 films,
Last
or you're
year,
just
there were
setting
6 that I really
random
wanted
quotas
in
for
on.
yourself.
Well, they
Okay.
just program it really,
It's
really well.
really- it's
Yeah.
American
very
Cinematheque
cool.
does a great job year round, but that festival in particular is really great. Would you want to just do 10 years? Would you say Parasite is the number one?
Yes.
of the last 10 years. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. What's next? You want to do let's do 3 more.
Sure. Okay, we got a question here from Kyle. Interesting question, thought-provoking. My question is, if we want people to see movies in theaters, doesn't the Academy need to require that these movies be available outside of LA and New York? Should the Academy raise the minimum threshold to 1,000 theaters so that Oscar-nominated movies get real theatrical distribution, not just token distribution for the Hollywood and New York elite?
Yeah, fuck the coastal elites.
That's right.
Well, this was...
No, I agree.
This was
wrecked, Brooklyn podcaster.
Yeah.
You were probably in the little gold men time when I feel like this was a very noisy proposition, right? Like the 1920...
Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah.
No one could get that one. And I was I'm in San Francisco, so I'm a coastal elite, but I couldn't get to Call Me By Your Name.
Coastal enough.
Yeah.
I think that there was, Spielberg's frustration with Netflix was a period in time.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, I think particularly with the push from Roma and that kind of being a real question. That was a film where it was like, this movie's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it winning actually mean for movies started to freak people out a little bit. And so this conversation really kicked up. Now I feel like what's happening is like a major rejection of the streamers. The Netflix, the Amelia Perez implosion, Amazon being the butt of several jokes during the telecast, the fact that there's new leadership at the film team at Netflix. I'm not saying like culturally Netflix is down. They're winning more than they've ever won. It's just, I think the question of like how many theaters a movie can play in, it's Sony Pictures Classics can't get I'm Still Here into 1,000 theaters. They literally can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. That would be financially ruinous for them to try to exhibit the movie at that level. But should it have more cities that it should play in? Should it have a longer period of time where it plays? I think these things are maybe a little bit more fungible.
And isn't part of this issue, I mean, this is a larger issue, not just the Academy requirement, but the fact that because of Netflix, et cetera, so many small art house theaters have shuttered in places. And there are places where you can't find a theater that would show Sing Sing or something else.
If you could make a change like this, what would you make?
It's tough because I absolutely agree with Sean Baker and everyone else who loves going to movie theaters that business really needs to be saved. But if you enacted this 1,000 theater thing, as you said, like literally none of the movies that we like could afford to do it because of the way the business model works. And a lot of that has to do with the theater model, which is related to, like intertwined with Hollywood stuff, but like still a separate business with its own things.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
they're splitting revenues.
Yeah. So I just, and then I think the result of, okay, so if an Oscar movie has to be distributed, if you have to spend this much spend this much money to make a movie an Oscar contender, then I think there are movies that don't get made anymore. That's like, which is like the opposite of.
It's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah.
So maybe it's more cities. Like maybe that's a good geographic way of doing it.
Not 1,000, but like at least Chicago and et cetera, et cetera. Is that what you mean? Or
right, exactly. And identifying markets.
What about, and I don't know how financially ruinous this would be. What about an Academy sponsored, like once the nominees are announced, all of those nominees go into the theater?
That would be interesting, but then who is the Academy paying for that?
That's what I think they should do.
It's a nonprofit organization, so in order to boost, that would be a clear declaration of boosting the theatrical experience, which in theory they want, but I'm not sure if they can really take a
whole
side.
Museum.
I know.
I
know.
Which is amazing, but like it's ultimately long term, wouldn't we be better served putting that money into getting people to re-engage in the movie going experience?
That would be an interesting thing to discuss with. That would be a reason to have the Academy leadership on the show, is to talk about a concept like that, because it's a good idea. I heard from a lot of people.
Like the way that they put shorts into the theater so that people can go see them.
But that's a separate corporation that does that
Yeah.
I think benefits from that and splits the proceeds with the filmmakers. Anyway, one thing that Brian Curtis said on the press box actually on Monday was that he was responding to Sean Baker's comments in the Best Director speech. And he just told the story that I saw a bunch of people on social media shared with me too, which is like, it's expensive to go to the movies. He said, I went to go see Dogman with my family and it cost $50.
Yeah. And
plus parking. And we've tried to be practical about that when talking about it on the show, that it is not cheap to go see movies. Right. One of the reasons why it's not cheap is because, for example, second run movie theaters don't really exist anymore. you being able to go see a movie that had been out for 4 months and pay $5 to see it with your kids, that's kind of gone. Streaming has replaced that. That's not coming back. I don't see any world in which that framework where you could get like the matinee ticket or just making things significantly more affordable, especially in a metropolis, is coming back. Plus, with movie theaters closing, you got to drive 50 miles to go to your nearest movie theater if you live in certain towns. That isn't what Sean Baker's talking about, though. He's not talking to you, Joe moviegoer, about how you're not seeing movies. He's talking to movie studios about guaranteeing theatrical exhibition for the movies that they greenlight. So it's a shot across the bow with the streamers, sure, but also at like Universal's 17-day window and how movies just go to VOD after 2.5 weeks if they don't cross a certain box office threshold. Seeing Warner Brothers now doing this, maybe not with an official policy, but like Companion was available to stream after 2.5 weeks. And that movie did okay. It's a pretty decent business for a genre movie in January, and you can watch it at home now. So like that thing that he said, I think he more so than us yelling on a podcast can encourage people to make change,
so?
But honestly, not that much.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think what he said, and I know I'm a cynic about these things, but I really don't think what he said is going to like really change David Zaslav and Donna Langley's point of view on the theatrical model.
Well,
Do you want?
I mean, it is David Zaslav, unfortunately, but at some point it's shareholders of a corporation that has XYZ, which is how all businesses and corporations in this cursed country work, or the world at large. But it's, I loved this speech and I thought it was important. But I agree with you that I think it's more effective to people at home. But you can't. The problem is you need to be able to change the emotions of faceless corporations, and that's not really possible.
But also change the mindset of so many people because of the prohibitive cost or because of the frictionless comfort of watching something at home. Change people's minds about what constitutes a trip to the cinema movie.
Mhm.
And for so many people, it's spectacle.
Yes, eventization.
Yeah, and I would hope that wouldn't be the case. It wasn't always the case, obviously, for us growing up. And so, but this is, I guess, the moment when we once again say to me, get real. Like, get real. It's not going to happen.
I was doing math in my head about how I think if you tallied up the domestic box office for the movies that we identified as like the top 5 contenders this year, it was still probably less than just what Rain Man made in America.
Right.
Which is the kind of movie that we're talking
about.
And
it's not just that like Rain Man made that much money, but then like everyone had seen Rain Man and everyone could talk. And you felt like you had to see Rain Man so that you could get the jokes and stuff like that. And we are scattered and we're not all watching the same movies anymore. Yeah. And I sound probably older than Sean did when he talked about how you can't drink water anymore. But, it's like...
I got to get all my water in by 4 p.m.
It's a good thing that you can't be pregnant because it's
for
just like
more reasons than one.
Like but like you cannot imagine the peeing at night situation and how you're trying to like ration your water.
I used to just be able to go right back to bed though.
Me too.
Will
that's gone.
Write a parenting book called "You Can't Imagine the Peeing at Night"?
You're just like you really
it's more of a kid's book. Yeah,
I would buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple more, Bob. Make them count.
I just want to say before I read the next one, I'm not working on this show if Sean is pregnant. Pregnant Sean running this spreadsheet. I'm out. I'm trading it off.
I challenge all the listeners of the show to remake the poster for Junior, where Arnold Schwarzenegger is pregnant and Danny DeVito is his... Danny DeVito?
Emma Thompson
is his doctor? Who's his doctor?
No, Emma Thompson's the doctor in Bridget Jones.
I believe Emma Thompson is the doctor in Junior.
Is she? And who is...
You're thinking about twins.
But is Danny DeVito not in Junior?
I'm pretty sure it's Emma Thompson.
I mean, hold on, let's see.
Danny DeVito is in Junior.
Okay. But so is
Emma
Thompson.
Thompson is the mother, the non-pregnant mother. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the pregnant man, that just like I will be one day. And Danny DeVito is his doctor, wearing a stethoscope on the poster.
Okay, so CR is Danny DeVito.
No, you are Emma Thompson.
No.
Amanda is Danny DeVito.
Amanda
and I
is
am
Emma
Arnold
Thompson.
Schwarzenegger.
CR is Danny DeVito, and you is Emma
just reading the
Schwarzenegger.
plot of Junior, which I guess I haven't seen in 30 years.
This is an Ivan Reitman film. It made $100 million at the box
I thought Emma
office.
Thompson was the doctor. That's my political brain. Okay.
She is a doctor.
Okay, thank God.
Well, it says Emma Thompson, Dr. Diana Reddit. Okay.
Pregnant with content, pregnant with mailbag answers. Okay,
They're
the next
all
question.
doctors.
They're all
Schwarzenegger
doctors.
is also a doctor.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I'm trying so hard to read the next question. I just want to read it so bad.
I'm ready.
Next question comes from Brian. Do you think the tabulations from Oscars past actually exist anywhere, like in a vault or something? Would you support their
Price
release at
Waterhouse.
some point in time,
This is
like declassified government documents? And what time period should that be?
This is such a good question.
Let's do a heist.
Let's-
Let's make a movie heist.
Yes.
To release all. Like honestly, let's start
so
pitching
good.
this
A
around.
Price Waterhouse
Yeah.
Okay.
In order to
I
get
love
all
it.
of the
I
Oscar.
actually-
yeah.
I know some people who work for Price
Okay.
Waterhouse. Not well,
Hook us
but
up.
I do know them.
Hook us up with
Okay.
that data, or at least those codes to break into their
I mean,
facilities.
they have to be somewhere, right? At some
100%.
point, it becomes sort of like
But I
their
kinda
data,
like the
their
idea
data
that-
security methods. Like, is the hard drive in a
Is
in
it
a
like
safe?
the knock list?
Yeah.
Do we have to? Okay.
Again, put me in Mission Impossible, leaning over on the keyboard, breaking into Price Waterhouse Cooper's
Just
data
one
set.
single drop. Okay. Should it be like 10 years later?
Yeah, we're
Release
still
it now. Release it now.
We're still
Release
waiting on
it now.
JFK, right? Like we're still waiting on that.
I don't know.
It's been 62 years, so
Right, but didn't he say that it was going to
We're
happen?
not waiting on it. Bill already cracked the case. Like we know this. Bill did it.
What's his latest? Besides the doctors have never wavered. Is it 2 bullets? What's his thing?
this is neither the time nor the
Okay.
place.
I like the idea of every 10 years.
That would be great. I want it on the show.
They got
I
to do it on
want
the
it
show.
after
Save
1
the
year.
Oscars. Let's
I want it
go.
after 20 years. I'll take it whenever, as a faux historian. I'm interested in all the information I
It
can
would be
accumulate.
so interesting to know, like, missed it by that much sort of stuff. Oh, it'd be
What do you
great.
think is the closest race of all time?
Moonlight and La La Land?
It's the one that springs to mind,
Yeah.
right? But maybe it's not.
It would be fascinating if it wasn't.
If it wasn't.
Trying to think.
I think Avatar and Hurt Locker probably
That was definitely
really
a close
split
one.
It's
contingencies of who would vote for
A
each.
great call.
Definitely a close one. I'm sure there are many races in the 70s that were tight.
But what if it's something random? Like if it was just
Best supporting
what,
actor.
like what was
Yeah.
running? No. Like what was running against Boyhood or Birdman? One of those years where it's not like it's not living in our mind as one of like the great squeakers. But
Weren't Boyhood and Birdman running against each other?
Oh,
Or was-
were they?
Or
Did
was
Boyhood-
Birdman running against Boyhood?
were they in the same? They were the same year, and then Boyhood beat Birdman.
I believe so, right?
No, Birdman won, I think.
Birdman.
Yeah,
won.
Birdman
I thought
won.
Birdman won.
Birdman won, but
Boyhood
wasn't it?
did not
it was
win.
it was
Wait,
against.
Patricia.
They were in the same year.
Arquette
Yeah.
Won. That's right. Okay. Well, that one. Or what won the year before?
I'll tell you momentarily. The year before that was 12 Years a Slave,
That probably wasn't
which
the
I think
squeaker.
probably
Right.
won in a walk.
What about the Spotlight year?
Yeah.
That feels like one.
What was the leading contender beyond Spotlight that year?
People thought The Big Short might go. I remember that.
It won PGA that year.
Yeah.
I remember that very well.
Yeah.
That feels like the only one that was even close. I guess maybe The Revenant had a lot of support.
And then there was the whole Mad Max Fury Road one at every single award below the line, but was never going to go. I just had to represent for House of R. Doom Part 2, you should have been a bigger contender.
It's very sad.
Doom Part 2 got the like Barbie treatment, right? Where like we made the sandworm jokes.
Yes.
The I'm just Ken sort of
We are
moment.
using you
Yeah.
to get people to care about this program
Correct.
while not actually acknowledging
I
its
mean,
greatness.
Wicked also.
Correct.
Same. I thought
I
they
love-
actually very smartly, the producers did a good job with that. Like
I-
they reminded us like these movies are actually nominated here tonight.
I thought Ariana Grande dressed as the Ruby Slipper was one of my favorite moments
it
of
was
all time.
nice. It was fine.
You're out on Ariana?
No, as you know, I thought that she should have won supporting actress.
That's right, you did
Yeah,
say
the
that.
best
You did say
performance.
that. What'd you guys think about Deadpool?
It's a no for me.
Oh yeah, he did a somersault or something. What did he do?
Was Ryan Reynolds not at the Oscars?
No, I think
He and
they
Blake-
put him back away.
He and
Yeah.
Blake did SNL 50 and then went back into hibernation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question, Bobby.
Last question. Let's send these 10 movies in the 2025 Oscars off nicely. Of this year's crop of Oscar nominees, which do you expect to revisit over the years? Which of the past few years of nominees and winners have you revisited a lot?
From this year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and any notable ones from the last couple of years that you found yourself coming back to?
I do think Anora.
I think weirdly at winning hurts it. I know that that's not.
I mean,
I 12 Years a Slave is a movie that springs to mind.
For you.
That's okay. There are some material differences.
No, but they're both complicated, traumatic stories,
Yes.
obviously in different ways and different modes of history. But I think when movies win, they sometimes get mothballed. And I know obviously my experience is different than a lot of other people's. But
I don't think that's true. Like, I think that can be true for something like Coda, would you say?
yeah,
but I also
that's for
think-
a variety of reasons.
But I also think, and Tom Quinn said this in his interview. I'll just keep promoting The Town, a great podcast. That it becomes a Pantheon movie, and I agree with that. You say it becomes mothball, but I think forever Anora will be a Best Picture winning film, and in a way that it could just sort of diminish to nothing if it hadn't won.
Yeah, I mean, there's no objective way to communicate like what is thriving and what is not in the cinematic mind of history. But
Not this close to it, but I would say things like Banshees of Inisherin is a movie that I rewatch way more than Everything Everywhere All at Once, for example, even though I liked that Best Picture win. Do you want to look at this?
Yeah, you just had it up, and I was
Yeah.
okay. I'm going to move this.
Here's an interesting exercise. This century, what movies have appeared on the rewatchables that have won Best Picture? A few. Gladiator. Crash, most recently, with Joanna Robinson. Very
Is it-
deserving.
My apologies.
When that text comes in, it's really special, isn't it? Yeah.
The Departed.
That
No
about
Country
it.
for Old Men. Argo. Spotlight. And that's it. So 6 movies in 25 years.
2017. The 2017 Oscar, like Shape of Water winning, whatever. But Call Me by Your Name, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, and Phantom Thread are all movies that I will watch any day of the week.
It's when we started
One of
this
the
show,
great
Yeah.
and we
years.
didn't really like.
You
we didn't
didn't
have
know.
like the tools
Yeah.
to be like,
In the
what
moment
is going
we
on
did it.
here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was very special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
2019 also a lot of heaters that we revisit.
19 is a great. That's the
Little
last truly great
Women.
year in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
I
Once
think
Upon a Time.
I'm watching Ford versus Ferrari on a second screen right now while you guys are podcasting.
I know it to be true. And you got The Irishman queued up, right?
quality films,
Right.
Quality
And
films.
Sean's
both.
heading to go watch Jojo Rabbit again after this pod, so we got to wrap it up.
It's incredibly rude.
I mean, The Brutalist, Nickel Boys. June Part 2, I think you're right, though, if only to be like, where did these worms come from?
I think it depends on 3. If 3 is good, it becomes Empire. Like it pretty. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think generationally, and obviously not as big as Empire Strikes Back, but it has all of those qualities when you're
Mm-hmm.
watching that movie. I would.
Conclave? I'd put Conclave on.
I would say the top 3 outside of Anora are the ones that you just mentioned: The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, and Nickel Boys, because Nickel Boys has a chance, I think, to be kind of like a cinephile,
I agree.
Absolutely.
historical entrant.
If you have children, Wicked.
No, if you have my child, a complete unknown.
Yeah.
I'll just say that's also contingent on Wicked for Good. I think if Wicked for Good is a smash and beloved and wins Best Picture, it changes it and makes it much more significant. Because, the history of Oz adjacent movies that are not The Wizard of Oz, a little up and down, I have some affection for them, but
How dare you besmirch Return to Oz?
I didn't besmirch it. I like it, but it's quite scary.
It gave me such nightmares when I was a kid.
Oz the Great and Powerful, that's your fave?
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Wiz, people love The Wiz.
Rachel
We're
Weisz is
performing
more
songs from The
best
Wiz on the
performance.
show.
2 Wiz performances.
Yeah, that was a lot.
That was a poor choice. I think for the Quincy, that's not what I would pick for Quincy Jones.
Agreed.
Is all I'm saying.
Agreed. We forgot that we were watching the show and they played the Austin Powers
Yeah.
Bossa Nova thing.
Yeah.
I didn't put together. Of course, that's Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I won't be rewatching, and I think a lot of people won't be rewatching, is Amelia Perez, and we get to put that to bed. Do we not?
That will actually be mothballed.
Yeah.
Into the annals.
Even though
of
it's the
digital
easiest to
storage.
see.
It will
of the
become-
10,
It will become a difficult trivia question years from now. What did Zoe Saldana win her Oscar for?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a good answer to what has the second most Academy Award nominations in a single year trivia question,
But what does it mean to get nominated for an Oscar? That's a question I would like to ask
I think it's
you.
less meaningful or more meaningful than it used to be.
I think it's less. I think it's less now that Netflix has shown that you can sort of buy a volume of nominations.
You can't buy a win.
You can't buy a win, but you can buy a
win.
nomination. Yes.
So, what will you be winning your Oscar for?
Our heist film?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
when we steal the tallies
I see.
of the
Very rare that genre gets Best Actress.
Yeah, well, you know me, we'll have artistic flair.
You're going to be the actors are going to be like screenwriter
I think
producer.
Screenwriter, director.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah. And editor.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It'll be after
Sean
I'm
Baker
nominated in the
trio.
shorts category for the Odyssey R. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
But I won't win that one.
Do you think your crew will agree that your natural warmth and charisma will pervade the set of your heist film?
Or will you say you can't sit down, no smartphones, no water if you're over 40?
It's a good question.
Is that
After 7. No water after 7. It's a gremlin situation. Okay, well, this was nice. You guys, thanks for opening for Bong Joon-ho. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
anytime. Thanks to all the listeners of the show for all the great questions. I feel that the email address is working very well, Bobby. Thank you for helping out with that. I appreciate it. Now let's go to my
I
conversation.
just love to read emails. You know, I love to read hundreds of emails.
You do
That's
love
my
to read
favorite
emails.
topic.
That's one of your great skills, among many great skills. Okay, now let's go to my conversation with Bong Joon-ho. Delighted to be rejoined on the show by director Bong Joon-ho and his translator Sharon. Thank you so much, guys, for doing this. Director Bong, I thought we could start with the immediate aftermath of Parasite and the incredible success, a Best Picture win, international acclaim, box office success. Did you feel any trepidation about following up that incredible success with a new film?
지금 이제 당신이 그런 식으로 막 나열하니까 뭐 상 받고 박스오피스 그러니까 막 우와 엄청난 일이 벌어진 것 같은데 물론 멋진 일이었지만 뭐 그게 그렇게 꽤 차분했어요. 저는 침착했어요. 나이가 이미 들어 50대라 그런지.
When you list all the accomplishments like that, it sounds like something crazy happened. Of course, it was great, but I actually maintained pretty calm throughout it all.
그래서 그 2020년 2월에 오스카 캠페인이 끝나고 이제 팬데믹이 오고 세상이 되게 조용해졌죠, 오히려. 그래서 뭐 안 좋게 조용해진 거긴 하지만 어쨌든 강제로 조용해졌고 그때 20년 아까 6월이라 그랬지. 6월에 이제 이 소설 미키 세븐틴 소설 받게 되고 그때부터 이제 소설이 있고 조금씩 천천히 각색했었어요.
So after the Oscars campaign was over in 2020, we had the pandemic and the world was forced to go quiet because of it. And in 2020 June, I received the manuscript for Mickey 7, and that's when I started reading and slowly started getting back into the work.
I'm curious about this particular choice. You know, mounting a large Hollywood production of original material is increasingly risky for studios. Did you think about Mickey 17 as what we sometimes call a blank check, where you get to take on a high leverage, big scale opportunity because of the success of your previous project?
이제 제가 미국 에이전트, 소위 말하는 에이전트가 생겼던 것이 괴물 이후에 2006년, 7년 요때쯤이었는데요. 꾸준히 어떤 뭐 몬스터 장르나 아니면 사이파이나 뭐 크라임 스릴러 이런 것들 제안이 꾸준히 있긴 있었습니다. 근데 이제 언제나 그걸 패스하고 제가 직접 디벨로핑한 프로젝트들을 했었는데 처음으로 이 제안을 받아들였던 것 같아요. 누군가가 오퍼한 걸 받아서 연출한 건 처음이죠. 근데 그랬던 이유는
So I started working with an American agency in 2006 after The Host. And since then, I've been getting offers for monster films, sci-fi, and crime thrillers, but I've always passed on those projects. And this was the first time that I've taken a material from someone else. And the reason I took it is
그 미키라는 주인공 때문이었고 휴먼 프린팅이라는 그 사이파이 핵심 컨셉 자체도 재밌지만 그 막상 그 컨셉 속에 있는 그러니까 그야말로 출력되는 인간의 상황 자체에서 여러 가지 인간적 감정을 느꼈어서 거기에 끌려서 하게 됐었어요. 그리고 제안했던 프로덕션도 플랜 B라고 그 옥자 때 같이 일했던 잘 아는 사람들이었었고요. 그래서 뭐 기회다, 스케일을 키워야 뭐 이런 쪽의 접근은 전혀 아니었고요. 이 아이디어 자체에 관한 부분들 언제나 그냥 스토리가 얼마나 유니크할지 또 감정이 흔들리는 부분이 있는지 그게 제일 중요한데 거기에 따라서 했던 거예요. 스케일은 사실 고려 대상은 아니었고요.
And I was really just drawn to the character of Mickey. Of course, there's that core concept of human printing, but I really wanted to focus on the individual going through this technology and the emotions that his story was evoking. And the project was offered by Plan B, who I was familiar with from working on Okja. And so it wasn't really about the scale. I kind of wasn't thinking about that. I was only really thinking about the idea and the uniqueness of the story and all the emotions that it would evoke.
With a great novel, people often say you can see it in your head while you're reading it. And you're renowned for storyboards and your storyboarding before making films. I know that you usually do your storyboards after you have a script or even a location where you're going to set, but when you're reading a novel, do you find yourself starting to draw what the film could look like?
구체적으로 진짜 이제 촬영할 때 쓰는 스토리보드는 그 공간이 설계된 다음에 만들게 되죠. 그러니까 그것이 로케이션 슈팅이건 아니면 셋 피스를 만들건 공간이 디자인 되고서 돼야 거기에 내 카메라를 여기다 놓겠어. 뭐 여기부터 여기까지 그 달리 트랙을 깔겠어 이런 식으로 딱 해서 설계해서 하는 거기 때문에 구체적으로 매우 실용적인 그 스토리보드를 실질적인 걸 짜는 거니까 공간이 디자인돼야 이제 진짜 스토리보드 나오는 거고요. 그 전에 구상할 때나 이제 그 스크립트 쓸 때는 그냥 이미지와 사운드 아직은 제대로 카메라가 고려된 건 아니지만 예를 들어 크리퍼들이 막 이런 식으로 막 굴러가는 이미지들이 있었으면 좋겠어. 아니 뭐 이런 식의 어떤 카메라의 포지션과는 무관한 이미지 자체를 많이 그려보게 되죠.
To get the actual storyboard that we're shooting off of, I only start that process after all the spaces are designed, whether that is location shooting or sets that we are building. The space has to be designed to know where the camera will be, how long the dolly track will be. So the specific practical storyboarding process starts after the space is designed. But I do start thinking about the image and the sound elements from when I'm writing the script and thinking about the story without considering the camera. For example, the way the creepers move and how they all roll about on the field, that was an image I started thinking of even before the entire storyboarding process.
I was curious about that because the creepers in some ways feel like if Okja and the host monster had a baby and just felt like it was completely born of your imagination.
좋은 아이디어인데? 그런 영화를 에어리언 대 프레데터처럼 그런 거 하면 만들고 싶어요.
That's a great idea. Maybe like Alien versus Predators, that could be a
Bring together.
근데 이제 그 크리퍼 세 종류가 있잖아요. 베이비, 주니어, 마마 크리퍼 세 종류인데 특히 이제 뭐 베이비 크리퍼는 되게 귀엽다면 주니어 크리퍼는 이제 액션을 담당하고 그래서 이제 그 아마딜로라 그러나 이렇게 공처럼 뭉쳐요 실제로 굴러가는 그래서 그런 레퍼런스도 많이 받고 이들이 어떻게 놀라운 군무를 펼칠 것인가 그래서 그 야바위 한다 그래서 컵앤볼 게임 이들이 매스 게임으로 컵앤볼 놀이를 하는 것 같은 어디에 마마가 있는지 숨기는 그거는 시나리오 단계부터 머릿속으로 많이 구상을 했었어요. 그 동물 다큐멘터리 같은 것도 찾아보고.
We have three different types of creepers in the film, the baby, the junior, and mama. And the babies just have to be adorable. And with the juniors, they're in charge of the action of the script. And so we referenced armadillos because armadillos kind of roll up into a ball. And they also have to show this spectacular mass choreography where they're kind of playing cup and balls with Mama Creeper trying to hide her. That was an image that I started thinking about when I was writing the script. I was watching a lot of animal documentaries to come up with ideas.
Mickey 17 has some familiar elements from your other films, especially Snowpiercer and Okja, the terrain, the creature elements. Do you ever worry about repeating yourself with some of these things, or do you see them more as similarities that are thematic recurrences that are purposeful in your body of work?
변주라고 하죠. 음악에서도 A가 있었다가 A 다시가 있고 그런 변주들은 즐거운이라 생각이 들고 익숙한 것과 새로운 게 얼마나 섞이게 되는가라는 것들이 제 영화에서 늘 반복돼 왔기 때문에 그냥 저는 그 자체로 편안했었어요. 배우들도 예를 들면 뭐 라비나 뭐 마크 러팔로, 토니 콜레트처럼 처음 일하는 배우들도 있고 또 스티븐 연이나 데니엘 헨셜처럼 또 반가운 두 번째 다시 일해서 반가운데 다 여러 그런 식으로 섞여 있죠. 뭐 설원은 스노우피어서에서 이미 한번 해본 거였지만은 이번에는 기차가 아니라 우주선이구나. 그런 믹스와 충돌. 네.
So I like to think of them as variations. You know, you have variations in music where you have the A bar and then the A dash. So it's always a mix of old and new. I think my films have always tried to do that. And so this wasn't that different from my usual approach. I had actors like Rob, Mark, and Tony that I never worked with before, and also familiar faces that I was very happy to work with again, like Steven and Daniel Henshall. So it's always a mix of what's familiar and what is new. You know, we get the snowy fields from Snowpiercer, but this time it's a spaceship and not a train. So I actually enjoy the mix and conflicts that arise from mixing familiar and new elements.
I found Toni Collette's character's obsession with sauces hilarious. And revisiting your work, I'm struck by how often people gathering to eat food together, you know, in Memories of Murder, in Parasite, in Snowpiercer, the actual cannibalism, these like setups, people eating together lead to explosive circumstances. There's a great one in Mickey 17. Why do you keep setting these huge set piece sequences around people sharing food?
너도 좀 이따 점심 먹을 거잖아.
I mean, you're going to have lunch soon, too. You know,
우리도 먹을 거.
have lunch soon.
이렇게 열심히 하루에 3번씩이나 하는 일이 어디 있어, 솔직히.
There's nothing else that we do 3 times a day, every day.
그래서 먹기 위해 사는, 그러니까 살려고 먹고 또 먹을기 위해 사는 건데, 그러니까 거기에 여러 가지 것들이 투사될 수밖에 없는 것 같아요. 뭐 모든 어떤 본인의 어떤 철학이건 취향이건 그 사회의 어떤 상황이건 모든 것들이 먹는 것을 표현하면 저절로 따라서 나오는 것 같은데 그 우주선 처음 탔을 때 식사 기억나요? 그 미키가 배식 받을 때 우주선에 처음 타서 이제 그 개떡 같은 카페테리아에서
So we eat to live and we live to eat. And I think in that you can project so many things, your philosophy, your taste, the atmosphere of that society. You can express so much just by the simple act of eating. And you know, if you remember the one of the earliest sequences in the spaceship where they're all in the cafeteria getting served food and getting served really crappy food.
미키가 식판에 이렇게 받는 거 있잖아요. 거기 이게 총 같은 걸로 찍 소리치 같은 게 나오는데 그거 보는 순간 정말 관객도 깨닫고 미키도 깨닫는 거죠. 아, 좋댔다 씨발. 이 우주선에 뭔가 근사한 그럴듯한 엑스페디션이라고 해서 왔는데 와 씨발 이런 푸드를 먹는구나. 망했구나. 이런 생각이 거기서 한 번에 확 오는 거죠. 네.
And you see Mickey with his plastic tray getting squeezed out this, you know, gray glob of porridge. And immediately Mickey and the audience realizes that Mickey is totally fucked. You know, thought that this would be a fancy expedition, you know, this great colony expedition. But then the minute you see him getting served that crappy food, we know how his fate will go.
그런 시츄에이션에서 토니 콜레트는 소스 얘기를 하고 있는 거죠. 무려. 그러니까 그냥 그 워킹 클래스의 걔네들이 듣기엔 그게 어떻겠어요, 그 기분이. 근데 거기서 이제 소스를 연구하고 개발하고 그게 문명의 척도라고 말하는 게 얼마나 참 허망한 이야기일까라는 거고. 독재자의 아내로서 그런 옵세션을 갖고 있다는 거에 그러니까 오히려 그런 옵세션을 갖고 있다는 게 정말 독재자의 아내가 될 수 있는 어떤 자격인가 봐. 라이센스인가 그게?
So while everyone is eating that crappy food, we have Tony Collette's character Ilfa just obsessing over sauce. And the working class characters in the film feel so insulted to witness her obsession. She spends all that time and energy trying to create sauces and declares it as the litmus test of civilization. And it's so pointless to everyone else who's just struggling to survive to have the dictator's wife obsess over something so unnecessary is probably what gives her the license to be a dictator's wife.
The movie is very frank and funny about sex. And it's an interesting counterpoint to Parasite, where you have this sex scene as this kind of inciting incident for Kim. And in this case, it felt more like maybe Mickey is seen as like a usable, disposable object in this world. Do I have that right? Is that how you were thinking about the inclusion of that element of the story?
So sex and like how Mickey is disposable?
Yeah, how he's basically being used even in those circumstances. His body is being used the same way it's being used by the colonizers.
그 마크 러팔로 캐릭터가 이제 처음 카페테리아에서 스피치를 할 때 이제 자기들이 무슨 전체 커뮤니티의 섹스를 컨트롤할 것처럼 말하는 장면이 있잖아요. 그 법적인 커미티에서 이제 레귤레이션을 만든다는 어떤 또 헛소리를 하고. 네.
If you remember Mark Ruffalo's speech in the cafeteria sequence, he declares to everyone that he's going to control sex using legal means, and the committee is going to create regulations around sex.
근데 사실 그 스피치를 하고 그 마샬은 마치 무슨 우리 인간들이 스스로 벌레가 된 것처럼 번식하라, 창궐하라, 이런 대사들을 하고 막 그러는데, 그 스피치를 할 때 사실 크로스 커팅 교차 편집이 되는 거거든요. 그 미키와 나샤가 섹스를 하는, 더 엄밀히 말하면 사랑을 나누는 거죠. 그들은 사랑해서 하는 거고, 번식이나 종족의 문제가 아니라. 예.
And when he does that speech, he almost talks about human beings as insects, talking about how we must propagate the species and infest the land. And while he's doing that speech, we cross-cut to Mickey and Nasha having sex. But to them, sex is more actually just like making love. It's not just breeding or propagating.
그래서 미키에게 있어서 어떻게 보면은 그가 단순히 프린트 잡이나 마샬이 말하는 것 같은 스팸 베이비가 아니라 정말 인간이다. 원래 미키 6, 7, 8 어쨌든 간에 원래 미키 바운스로서 인간이다라는 거를 증명하는 그런 섹스의 순간인 것 같아요. 그 나샤와 사랑을 나누고. 그러니까 이 커뮤니티 자체가 무슨 법으로 무슨 섹스를 컨트롤하고 또 아니면 도착하고 나면 엄청난 프로모션을 하겠다 섹스를 말하는데, 그리고 또 죽고 사는 문제도 방금 말한 게 이제 에로스의 문제라면 그다음에 그 타나토스인가? 타나토스와 관련된 부분은 또 그 죽음을 기계로 휴먼 프린팅으로 해서 이제 리프린팅하고 익스펜더블이라는 직업 때문에 죽어야 되는 직업인 건데, 그 에로스건 타나토스건 다 그 커뮤니티 시스템에 의해서 통제되는 입장인데, 유일하게 그래도 나샤와 사랑을 나누는 그 순간만큼은 미키 자신인 거죠. 그래서 약간 그런 맥락인 것 같아요.
And so for Mickey, it's not that sequence shows that he's just human. He's not just someone with a job. He's a human, living, breathing human having sex with his partner. And so this whole community can try to control that through law. And they talk about, putting out this sex enhancement campaign once they arrive. And we see Mickey and Nasha sort of exempt from that and having their own moment of love. And so Marshall is trying to control Eros, sex and love, and also Thanatos, the way people die and live. They're treating bodies and death as if quite mechanically, as if it's just so it can be someone's job to go through that process. And so we have this community and system trying to control the eros and thanatos of human existence. And only Mickey and Nasha, who are, who truly love each other, are exempt from that and can manage to, remove themselves from that. And so we see sort of that disparity.
And in the climatic sequence, the Mickey shout, see, three, and then bring the baby. 사실 우주 행성간 체이표에 나오는 거잖아요. 그 마지막에도 섹스로 저항하는 거지. 이 미키랑 나샤가.
So C3 was part of, one of the positions that they invented and assigned to each planet. And so in the end, they're fighting against evil and rebelling through sex.
You have talked in the past about your admiration for the way Martin Scorsese works with actors and lets them figure out character. Because of this story, there's big performances because these are really big characters. The thing I'm curious about is how do you make sure that the performances all agree with each other, that they share the same tone when you have a story like this?
그 앙상블이라는 거겠죠, 그죠? 근데 이게 모르겠어요. 이게 참 여러 캐릭터들이 있고요. 또 여러 개의 씬이 막 흩어져 있잖아요, 그들이. 뭐 한 대 모아놓고 무슨 연극 워크숍 하듯이 막 그런 것도 아니고. 이게 참, 대신 근데 그건 있어요. 우리가 한국 인더스트리에 되게 일반적인 건데, 온셋 에디팅을 해요. 그래서 그거 찍으면서 편집을 하거든. 보면 이제 연기 톤이 보여요. 이어지는 게. 그래서 매일매일 찍을 때 옆에서 동시에 누가 한 명이 편집을 하고 있기 때문에 그 흐름을 볼 수가 있어요. 그리고 또 아침에 이제 세트장에 도착하면 어제 찍은 분량도 보고. 그럼 이렇게 차곡차곡 이어나가기가 좋으면 왜들 현장 편집 안 하지? 미국이나 다르다. 한국은 하는데. 네.
Yes, it's all about, creating that ensemble. But with films, it's like you have so many characters and they're all spread out in different scenes. It's not like you can bring them all together for a theater workshop. But I think what helps is in Korea, we have on-set editing. And so I have an editor right next to me editing as we go. And you can sort of see how the scenes and shots cut together. And you can see the flow of the tone, performance, and narrative. And when you arrive on set, you can sort of watch everything that you shot the day before. And so it's quite helpful in trying to keep or connect the tones together. And I always wonder why they don't do this in the US, because it can be so helpful.
Is it because most filmmakers can't not shoot coverage and you don't shoot coverage?
커버리지 안 찍어요. 그냥 이렇게 여기서 여기까지 이렇게 하고 그다음에 여기서 이렇게 하고 그래서 그러려고 스토리보드를 하는 거죠. 그래서 네, 그 배우들 입장에서 같은 대사나 연기를 반복할 일이 거의 별로 없는 편이고요. 그래서 설국열차 때 이제 돌아가신 존 허트옹께서 이거 되게 봉 너는 약간 히치코키언인 것 같아. 그런 스타일인 것 같아라는 코멘트를 해주셨어요. 촬영할 때. 그래서 그때 되게 기뻤던 것 같아요. 그런 말을 들었다는 것이.
Yeah, I just don't shoot coverage. I get a certain moments at a time, and then we immediately flip around to do the next part. I think that's why I storyboard, and so the actors never really have to repeat the same dialogue or the same situation multiple times. I remember when I was shooting Snowpiercer, John Hurt, who has now passed, he, mentioned that my method is quite Hitchcockian, and I was quite happy and pleased to hear that.
Can you talk about reuniting with Darius Kanji? I was really happy to see this. Why was he the DP on the film?
복자 때 되게 행복한 작업이었고요. 그가 얼마나 뛰어난 아티스트인지는 뭐 이미 온 세상이 다 아니까. 근데 이제 인간적으로도 인간 대 인간으로도 되게 재밌어요. 둘이 이렇게 꿍시럭거리면서 되게 재밌게 뭐 나리 형이라고 부르는데 어쨌든 뭐 맨날 이렇게 둘이 맛있는 거 먹으러 다니면서 서로 보고 싶어하는 그런 면이 있죠.
I just had such a great time working with Darius on Okja. The whole world knows how great of an artist he is, but just on a personal level, I always have so much fun with Darius. We're all kind of just like rumbling amongst ourselves, and I just have such fun when we're together. We go to eat great food together, and I always miss him. And
우연의 일치인데 다리우스랑 두 작품을 했는데 두 편 다 크리처가 나오는 거예요. 옥자는 심지어 거의 주인공 가까워. 이 영화에도 크리퍼가 많이 나오죠. 근데 사실 다리우스 콘지가 그 형님이 이렇게 VFX 쪽을 막 즐기시는 타입은 아니거든요. 그러니까 오히려 더 막 뭐야 그 제임스 그레이 영화 최근에 찍은 거 뭐지? 아마겟돈 같은 막 그런 거 있잖아. 그런 거나 뭐 로스트 시티 오브 Z처럼 막 이렇게 또 클래식화라는 건데 정말 놀라운 아름다운 막 라이팅이 나오고 이런 거를 더 선호하시는데 이상하게 저를 만나갖고 이제 자꾸 VFX 크리처가 나오고 막 현장에 막 VFX 슈퍼바이저 뛰는 그런 익숙치 않으신데 또 이번에 보니까 결국은 또 그걸 좀 즐기시는 것 같더라고요. 나중에 가서는 이제는 이제 익숙해지셔가지고.
So this is just by pure coincidence, but the both films that we've done together feature VFX creatures. Okja was kind of even the main character, and actually Darius isn't really the type to enjoy VFX. He's actually more like, Armageddon Time and Lost City of Z by James Gray, these very classic films with beautiful lighting. But for some reason, he just had to work with me and face all these VFX creatures, and he's not really familiar with it. But I think with this film, he actually got the hang of it and started enjoying the process.
그래서 VFX 할 때 이제 VFX 슈퍼바이저인 댄 글라스랑 그 다리우스 간의 어떤 호흡이 좋았었어요. 서로 되게 좋아하고 서로가 되게 사랑하는 아티스트 간의 관계였는데 그래서 그 VFX 쪽에도 이제 마마 크리퍼의 눈이라든가 뭐 이런 것들을 뭐 예를 들어 되게 아름답다 뭐 다리우스가 좋아하고 그 VFX 쪽 팀과 의논도 많이 하고 거기에 뭐 빛이나 컬러에 관해서 다리우스가 또 코멘트도 많이 하고 되게 이제 즐겁게 작업하신 것 같아요. 이번에 그 크리퍼를 하는 데 있어서. 옥자 때는 좀 생소해 하셨던 게 있었는데 왜 이런 걸 하는 거지? 막 이러면서.
Our VFX supervisor is Dan Glass, and I think Darius and Dan had a great collaborative relationship as two artists. They had a lot of respect for each other, and so Darius was quite involved in the VFX process, just really appreciating how beautiful the VFX work was, and also was involved in determining the light and color of all the shots. And so I think he had a really great time working with Dan on the VFX of this film. I do remember when we were working on Okja, he was a bit like new to all of it and was questioning why things had to be done a certain way.
Do you like that work at this point? I've read in the past that you avoid green screen work as much as possible, but this is a very big production that I assume required some of it. How do you like working with this level of VFX in a film?
운 좋게 그 괴물 때도 이제 실제 서울의 도시에 이제 한강이라는 이제 백그라운드에서 괴물이 막 뛰어다니고 이런 거. 그래서 크리처 애니메이션이 중심에 있었지만 그 블루 스크린이나 그린 스크린 쓸 일이 별로 없었어요. 그리고 옥자 때도 그 옥자라는 이제 슈퍼피그가 나오는데 그 동물이 나오는데 거대한 그린 스크린 앞에서 찍고 뭐 얼굴에 무슨 센서를 붙인 배우가 뛰어다니고 이런 식의 VFX는 아니었었거든요. 예, 이번 미키 때도 마찬가지였는데 이상하게 그린 스크린을 쓸 일은 그렇게 많지는 않았어요. 우주선 창밖이 보이는 뭐 이런 데 조금 쓰고 그랬는데 이 우주선이 또 유리창이 별로 없는 우주선이야. 그런 것도 좀 있었고 저는 유난히 그린 스크린을 그다지 온 사방이 그린 스크린으로 처발라진 방에서 막 배우들과 외롭게 찍고 아무것도 없는 데서 상상하면서 찍고 이런 상황이 별로 없었다는 게 되게 행운이었던 것 같아요.
I think I was quite lucky in all of it, in that with the host, we were actually shooting against actual Seoul and the Han River that splits Seoul, and we just have this monster and with the city backdrop. So there was a lot of creature animation, but we weren't working with blue or green screens. Same with Okja, we have this super pig, but it wasn't like we had actors with sensors on their faces just acting off of nothing. And Mickey was the same. We actually didn't really shoot with a lot of green screens. Of course, we had some with when we see out of the spaceship window, but with this spaceship we actually don't have a lot of windows. And so we never had moments where it was just an actor surrounded by green screen just acting by himself and trying to imagine everything in front of his eyes. So we were quite lucky in the sense that we always had a clear sense of what was the environment of the film.
가장 챌린징한 거는 역시 그 두 미키 나오는 거 그거였어요. 한 화면에. 그게 막 또 서로 싸우고 막 어깨동무하고 이런 장면까지 있기 때문에 이게 그리고 거기서 단 0.1초라도 어색해 보이면 그 드라마 스토리라인 자체가 붕괴돼 버리기 때문에 정말 조심스럽게 했죠.
The most challenging VFX element was definitely the two Mickeys. We see the two Mickeys together in one shot frequently, and they fight. They have their arms around each other. There's a lot of interaction, and we couldn't allow not even a single a split second of awkwardness. Otherwise, the story would just completely fall apart. So we were very sort of careful and meticulous with that whole process.
Speaking of Mickey, Robert Pattinson is an inspired choice. He's very good at being both goofy and desperate, which Mickey needs to be. What did you see him in that made you think of him for this part?
그 조시 사프디 그 사프디 브라더스랑 잘 아는데 만난 지가 꽤 됐네. 옥자 때 뉴욕에서 만났던가. 그다음에 또 기생충 때 그 텔루라이드에서도 만나. 아주 잘 알아요. 근데 그 굿타임스 보고 거기서 로버트 패틴슨이 저런 배우구나. 우리가 알던 것이 전부가 아니다. 그리고 되게 그 실험적인 영화들도 막 오테르 감독들이랑 많이 하고 그래서 연기 욕심이 있구나 뭐 이런 좋은 인상을 갖고 있었거든요.
So I'm good friends with the Safdie brothers. I first met them in New York when I was making Okja, and then I met them at Telluride when we were doing Parasite. And I watched their film Good Time and realized that Robert Pattinson, we were only seeing very little of him, and there's much more to see from him as an actor. And I know that he was doing a lot of experimental work with auteurs, and I could sense that he was quite an ambitious actor.
And I watched the Lighthouse in Cannes Film Festival Directors Fortnight, and 저거 18이네 미키 18을 저거 완전 미친 새끼 저거. 그래서 18도 잘할 수 있겠구나라는 게 이제 그 라이트하우스를 다시 되돌려 머릿속에서 리플레이 해보니까 되겠다는 생각이 들더라고요.
So with this project, I sort of looked back on the Lighthouse and just thought, oh my God, that's 18 right there. He's totally crazy, the character that he plays in the Lighthouse.
그래서 저의 첫 번째 초이스였고 랍도 되게 하고 싶어 했기 때문에 잘 맞아떨어졌고 그 랍이 뭐 배트맨이나 뭐 트와일라이트 뭐 이런 거 했는데 그 사실은 저의 눈에는 이상하게 좀 불쌍한 청년같이 보였었어요. 약간 이렇게 아까 뭐 구피라는 단어를 쓰기도 했지만 뭔가 계속 사기당하고 다니는 사람. 사기꾼한테 계속 사기당하는 느낌? 같은 사기꾼한테 2번 사기당할 것 같은 애. 약간 그런 느낌이에요.
And he was my first choice. And thankfully, Rob also really wanted to work on this project. And, I know we mostly know him from Batman and Twilight, but just to my eyes, the way he looks, I just kind of felt sorry for him. And, you mentioned that he has this goofiness to him, but also just always too nice for his own good and always getting the short end of the stick. He, probably hangs out with grifters and let them take advantage of him multiple times and yet still hang out with them. I kind of just got that sense from Rob.
He's really, really well cast. You've mentioned that John Carpenter's The Thing is a big inspiration for this movie. When you say something like that, are you actually going back to look at the film before you start on this film, or is it just an idea that you have implanted?
존 카펜터의 영화들 그리고 그 중에서도 The Thing은 꼭 이 작품을 위해서라기보다는 저희가 이제 뭐 항상 뭐 탑 10 리스트를 뽑거나 인생 영화 같은 거 뽑을 때 반복적으로 많이 나오는 영화고요. 그만큼 또 사이파이의 걸작이기도 하지만 좀 더 광범위한 개념이라는 생각이 들고요. 네.
With John Carpenter's films, and in particular The Thing, it wasn't just a specific reference for this film in particular. It's just an overall general influence in my life. You know, it always shows up in like the top 10 my favorite films list. And, you know, it's a sci-fi masterpiece that really does deserve that.
이 실제 작품을 만들 때 오는 그 구체적인 레퍼런스나 이제 프랙티컬, 실용적인 필요에 의해서 다시 꺼내보게 되는 영화 같은 건 또 의외로 또 예기치 못한 영화들인 것 같아요. 예를 들면. 예.
So actually the films that are specific references for this project and the ones that I revisit specifically for Mickey 17 are actually unexpected, like quite surprising.
그 for example, 케빈 코스트너, The Dances with Wolves. 그거 다시 꺼내봤어. 왜냐하면 그 크리퍼들 막 돌진하고 막 할 때 그 막 지축을 울리는 그 바이슨들의 소리 같은 거 막 그 어떤 사운드였지 그게? 막 그 사운드를 다시 듣고 싶어. 뭐 이런 생각 들거든요.
Yeah, for the creepers climactic sequence when they're all moving in a herd, I wanted to see how that film handled the bisons and how like that groundbreaking sound of the bisons moving as a herd.
존 카펜터 영화에서 되게 반복되는 그런 거 있잖아요. 보면 그 Assault on 13th Street나 아니면은 그 Prince of Darkness도 그렇고 더 싱도 마찬가지네. 어떤 일군의 그룹의 한 그룹의 캐릭터들이 그 고립된 어떤 한 장소에 다 모여 있고 그 외부를 다 이제 사악한 존재나 괴물이나 이런 것들이 둘러싸고 있고 거기서 이제 그 안에서 분투를 벌이고 더 띵은 이제 내부 안에서 또 몸의 안쪽에 괴물이는 케이스긴 하지만 그런 식의 시츄에이션을 좋아합니다. 저도.
There's a recurring theme in John Carpenter's films, like Assault on Uncertain Street or Prince of Darkness. You always see this group of characters isolated in a particular location, and then being surrounded by evil beings outside and monsters, and they have this battle inside this very claustrophobic location. And the thing, you know, it's monsters inside their body, even. But that's like a setup that I really like.
Do you see Mickey 17 as a hopeful movie? I think about this after all of your movies. Is this optimistic and hopeful or not?
상대적으로 가장 희망적이지 않나요? 그리고 미키가 좀 파괴되는 걸 보고 싶지는 않더라고요, 이번에. 네, 주인공들을 좀 잔인하게 다루는 데 있어서 제가 거침이 없었거든요, 그동안. 근데 이번엔 좀 달랐어요. 아, 미키가 좀 랍이 그렇게 되는 건 좀 싫은 거예요. 처음 시나리오 쓸 때부터 그러긴 했었어요.
I would say that this is relatively one of my more hopeful movies because I really didn't want to see Mickey get destroyed. Until now, I've been quite ruthless in being cruel to my main characters. But for some reason, I just didn't want to do that to Rob. Ever since I started writing the script, I just didn't want to see that.
아들이 이제 미키 나이가 돼서 그런 건지 뭐 뭔지 모르겠는데 근데 다음 작품에서 다시 또 잔인해질 것 같아요.
It's probably because my son is now around Mickey's age. But probably for my next film, I'm going to go back to being just ruthless and cruel.
행운이야.
Rob was very lucky.
I'm wondering how Sung Kang-ho feels about this.
사모님은 이걸 보고 어떤
맞아요. 서울 시사회 때 와서 보긴 봤어요. 가족들하고.
He actually watched the film at the Seoul premiere. He brought his family to watch the film.
나한테 문자했는데.
He just texted me.
뭐라 그랬다. 되게 간결한.
He sent over like a short text of his thoughts after.
괴상하게 아름답다.
It's disturbingly beautiful.
Director Bong, we end every episode of this show by asking filmmakers what is the last great thing that they have seen. I know you are still a cinephile. Have you seen anything great lately?
보면서 좋았던.
네, 가장 최근에.
그러니까 옛날 영화인 것도 상관없는 거죠?
It can be like an old film, right?
Anything.
Just recently.
Do you keep a list?
아니요, 메모된 게 있는데
I do have like a little note.
Quite recently, I watched the 하마구치 리우스케 그 악은 존재하지 않는다.
Evil does not exist.
그거 되게
That
아름다웠고요.
was so beautiful.
그 다음에 그 월리스 그로밋 그 넷플릭스의 신작이 나왔다길래 이제 옛날 거를 다시 봤어요. 그 단편을.
And I heard about the new Wallace and Gromit on Netflix. So I went back to the old shorts.
그 롱 트라우저 그거 역시 걸작이더라고요.
Yeah, true masterpiece.
We love the wrong trousers. That's a great one. Director Bong, congrats on Mickey 17. Sharon, thank you so much. It's so nice to chat with you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to Bong Joon-ho. Thanks to our producer, Bobby Wagner. Thanks to Gahao for filling in for Jack Sanders today. Thanks to Joanna Robinson. Listen to you on the Prestige TV podcast covering The White Lotus and Severance and sometimes The Pit. And what else?
House of R is a show that I do.
I was just going through Prestige shows.
That's it for right now.
You're on House of R.
Yeah.
You're on The Rewatchables sometimes.
Correct.
What else?
The Big Pick.
The Big
sometimes.
Picture.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Ringer NFL show.
Yeah.
Ringer Gambling show. Against All Odds. You're on. You're on Sports Card Nonsense.
It's true.
Amanda, you are starting a new politics podcast, which we're really excited about here at the Ringer. Can't wait to hear that. Anything else? You're on Jam Session.
Yes.
What else are you on these days?
Just trying to keep up with you, Sean Fennessey.
Okay. Well, thanks for all your service. We'll see you next time.